coming from a galaxy near you. This is Brothers in Booze. And here are your hosts, Greg Washington and Doug Ziegler.
Hey, Doug, how you doing?
Hola. How's it going, man? That was a great chant.
Yeah, let's see it again. Love it. I can hear that all night.
Yeah, for sure. So what you got in a cup there, man? Let's start there. Welcome to Brothers in Booze, folks. Sorry.
Welcome. Yeah, I'm still living up from last week, Martin City, the double secret that our buddy Charlie was telling us about. I like it, it's good, but I think what you like about it, Doug, because we were talking about this real quick a couple minutes before, it, like Charlie said, it's not as hoppy as it's not as overly hopped as the other one is, but it also has a big malt background that I'm sure you enjoy that the other one doesn't have. That, I mean, I like it, don't get me wrong, but it's not, the other one was better.
Yeah, for you. For me, that was
absolutely.
Actually, I like the maltiness in that one when I had that this week. So.
Oh, look, JC liked it. Let's do it again. All right. Those soccer guys, man, they know how to party.
Yeah, and got a good beat and you dance to it. So, yeah.
And that was right. And that was Turkish. That was a Turkish game. So hating Vladimir Putin has become a worldwide thing. So
yep,
it's not just
for sure.
right. So good shit there. But unfortunately, it's a sad thing here. And I don't know. While we're here talking about it, I just wanted to show this. Yeah, so and then we have this, Doug, real quick.
You can see people getting arrested just behind me. Activists have held a protest against the war in Ukraine. A couple hundred people maybe tried to come out, but police have been arresting people left and right. I myself was just arrested and put in that police van back there. Their lieutenant came, checked my documents, let me out in the end. But many other people weren't so lucky. I saw at least a dozen people in that police van. They're being taken away. Another woman now being arrested behind me. Police are grabbing pretty much anyone who tries to unfurl a banner, say anything, or even just stand across from the square right now. Lots of riot police. Every now and then people start chanting no to war, but they quickly stop when police begin arresting people again.
Brave people.
And those people don't just go to like a holding cell. They put those people away.
Who knows where they go? Right. And so shout out to all the Ukrainians, and hopefully things, I don't know what to say.
I don't know. What do you say? It's a friggin' mess. And yeah, our thoughts and well wishes are with those folks to stay safe. And, we'll just hope cooler heads eventually prevail. But with Putin in charge of the Russian shit, that's not a good place to start.
Yeah. And I don't know, of course there'll never be a poll, but I would suspect that most of the Russian people don't want this, because ultimately at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to suffer from all the sanctions and all the different things that are going to be taken away from them because of their asshole leader, who I'm not sure who's on some 1980s bullshit or some shit, because Ukraine is a independent country, and they're a democracy, and they deserve to be able to govern themselves. So the fact that he thinks that he can just start wars is just out of control. It's just fucking crazy. So yeah, man, shout out to the Russian people too, because again, I suspect, Doug, and there'll never be a poll or anything, but most of those people don't want war, and most of those people side with the people in Ukraine. So we really have only a few people that want this to go down, and unfortunately, it's going down. So I don't know. Did we get to what you have, Doug?
What's that?
Did we get to what you're drinking?
No, but we were into some heavier stuff. Now I'm into a heavier beer. How about that?
Right.
So I picked up this. This is a double chocolate Three Philosophers.
Oh, here we go.
Special release. So that is Three Philosophers is probably my second favorite quad. This one is actually a blend of quad and creek ale with cocoa nibs. So they actually blended creek into it.
Ooh, so it's going to be some cherry. Might be a little sour.
Yeah, a little bit. And I don't know if you can tell, you got a little bit of the cherry color in there. Maybe you can see a little bit of the red coming through from the creek.
That fucking sounds delicious. I'm sorry, I can't.
And you would be right. It is delicious. So yeah.
Our guest is having technical difficulties, so it lets me play this again. I'm telling you, Doug, soccer people have the best fun at these games.
Oh, and the thing is though, like if you go to like a soccer match, or like I remember being in Ireland and you go into the bar and it's like each bar has its own fandom.
Yes.
And if you walk into the wrong bar not realizing it, that could be very bad for you.
Yes.
There's fiercely Laurel, but they know how to get after it and they really have fun.
They really do have fun. Absolutely. Right. Kelly's like, Barry's probably putting the babies to bed. Probably. This is true. Now, there's a soccer chain I can get behind. Absolutely. That's fun. I don't know. I'm going to keep playing it. For some it's just really good. It looks like a dead
person at the bottom, standing up at the bottom, and they're like kind of running it.
Love it.
That's great.
I can't get enough of it, actually. Can you tell?
Not at all.
Cocoa Nibs was not my nickname in college. Oh shit. So
Cocoa Nibs.
Yeah, dog. So yeah, I guess we were gonna ask Barry about the war, and we'll get to asking that. Another thing that's very, very interesting that's been going on, especially in this country, and then during COVID, and then coming out of COVID, is this.
Okay, everyone. So I am here showing my client a home, and I just want you to take a look at all of the people who are lined up to see this property. So when we say that there is a housing crisis, we really, really mean it. It's absolutely insane. The line goes all the way in the back. It's not even 5:30 fully, and someone stopped me and they wanted to know what was going on in the neighborhood, and I just told them the truth. I said, we're having a housing crisis, and this is a home that is priced under $300,000 here in the Raleigh area, and as you can see, there are just cars upon cars upon cars, and there are a ton of people that are trying to see this home. This is absolutely ridiculous. We have got to get control over these prices and the housing inventory.
Crazy.
That's crazy, man. And that's a $250,000 listing. $250,000.
Right. And that's not even
that's not like, oh, it's an $80,000 house and it's really nice. No, that is a $250,000 house, and people are just flocking to try to get a look at it. And that's
right.
That's how weird our housing prices are in this country. I mean, yeah, and well, they've been. I mean, if you watch House Hunters as avidly as I do, you see people, and it depends on where you're at. Like if you're in the Pacific Northwest, like in Seattle or San Francisco, oh, I'm going to buy this 2-bedroom, 1-bath place for $1.5 million. I'm like, fuck that.
Doug pulled out House Hunters and this shit.
Hey, I that show, I just love having on in the background. I love making fun of the choices people make, and we always try to pick which house they pick, and 9 times out of 10 we're wrong. So.
I love it too, but really though, specifically this, I don't think this is a time. We've had housing booms and busts, but I have never really experienced a time, at least in my adulthood, that it was like this. Our next door neighbor put his house on sale 5 months ago and got 5 offers above his asking price, and we thought the asking price was great, not crazy, but we were like, oh, he's not going to get that, and he got that and more. And so then I'm not sure, like, I mean, I guess there's a COVID aspect to it, but I'm not sure what the hell is going on. Like, yeah, get you a Lego house here. Right. I mean, that's nothing. They got nothing on DC Metro prices. I mean, it's just everywhere. Mm-hmm. I really don't have an explanation for it. Is it, I mean, I don't know. I don't really watch these shows or whatever, but like, I mean, even the economy shows, are we talking like, supply and, because it would be great, Doug, to like sell our house or sell your house for like way over the asking price, but then where the fuck are y'all going to live? You know what I mean? So then there's a,
yeah.
right. Yeah. I'm like, well, let's sell. Fuck it. Let's do this. And then I'm going to end up overpaying for something else, right? I mean, that's where we're at, right? I think. So.
Yeah, I thought I heard somebody say, like one of my Facebook friends posted that, and somebody said there, yeah, I've seen people sell their houses and decide to live in a trailer until the housing market returns to normal. And I'm like, yeah, but then you got to live in a trailer. like an RV for, and yeah.
During COVID.
During
COVID. Yeah. Right. And I don't know, things are looking well for us in COVID, but like we've been here before, maybe not exactly, but we've been here before where it looked good and then all of a sudden it turned back into like nasty shit. So who knows where we're at with all that. But yeah, like that house will go for $500K easy, right? And that's a lot of places. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. I mean, that was North Carolina, so like that's different. But like,
well, and it was in Durham, which is in the Triangle. So
sure.
That's a pretty popular place to live. So.
Everyone in San Francisco is flocking to live in Sacramento now. All our houses values are skyrocketing. In San Francisco, Manny, if I'm not mistaken, that was already an expensive place to live. So right. So then if it even gets more, I don't know what's going on. And then we have this, I don't know, man, this is a lot of shit swirling at the same time, Doug. Then we have this, the aspect of, where we're at with employment and where a lot of people are, a lot of jobs are open, but there aren't many people to work them. And I don't know. I just saw an article, I think a couple of days ago, that they were talking about like employers have finally gotten it, and now they're going to start raising their wages because they can't. People don't want to come back and work for the wages that these people are still throwing around.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, it's major homelessness. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know what to say.
There's a myriad of things that are part of that whole equation, with, like big companies coming and swooping and buying up a whole bunch of properties so they know they can turn it around and make big money off of it. So it makes it harder for regular folks to buy homes. You have things like homeowners associations, which are fucking ripoffs. Like there's a lot of shit that goes into it, and it makes it so much more difficult. I mean, yeah, I know my parents bought their house when they got married, and it was in 1976, and they bought the house for $17,000. And that was not cheap at that point. But the weird thing is, it's like the interest rate back then was like credit card rates, like 13, 14% interest. So it was like crazy high interest, but different times, right? And credit was harder to get then. Credit's easy to get now. And people get in and they get overextended. And it's like, and I'm going to harken back to house owners again, where it's like, oh, our budget is, 400,000. And they're like, but we see this house and it's 450,000. I'm like, well, then that wasn't your fucking budget, was it? You're going over what you said you could spend, and you're going over it. And to me, I find that I maybe I'm a bit of a cheapskate. I think that's fucking nonsense.
Zach says the white people are there to flip that shit because they saw the TLC show. Back to Kelly asks, I didn't forget you, Kelly. How did they get all in sync with this? And she's talking about this. Son of a bitch. So I don't know because I haven't been to a soccer match across the pond, or I've been to a soccer match where they are that where they ad lib. Most soccer matches, Kelly, and audiences and fans, they already have their chants, and they do them like every game. So like it's almost like church choir, where you show up to church, the same hymns get sung, and then there's a hymn book too, if I recall correctly, but there's also like the same hymns get sung. So then them at their, you go to church a couple times, all the hymns that they're going to sing. Yeah. It's kind of like that with soccer, where every team has their own hymns and songs and stuff. But there are times though, Doug, where they do have these ad-lib ones, and unfortunately, I don't know if y'all know, there's times where they have these racist ones, or they make one up for like the opposing player or like the goalie. And I think it's just ad lib. I think it spreads. And then like you hear it once and they just do it over and over and over. So like that wasn't their first run with that. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Right. Like they started that son of a bitch, and then they just kept doing it, and then
people started getting into it, baby. And they're like, yeah,
because I don't know, we get into it soon, Doug. I'm gonna know the whole thing because I keep playing it.
that shit's catchy. That's gonna be in my head when I try to go to sleep tonight. So thanks for that.
Yes, and Chris is right. Hymns like that would make vastly more interesting. You're right about that. McDonald's around here starting at $16 with no experience now. Okay. This is interesting how COVID almost feels like COVID is pushing the minimum wage up to like a living wage, because people are just either tired of it, Doug, or don't want to take that extra job, or unfortunately, and I don't say this as a joke, dead. We lost a lot of people in COVID. We talked
Yeah,
about this
especially in the
before.
frontline workers, especially frontline workers like
Correct.
McDonald's. Those are the people that got infected at first because they were in the front lines.
And their employers generally didn't give a fuck and just threw them out there because so they can make their, what do CEOs make? Their extra $2 billion or their extra fucking $3 million. And yeah, so it looks like our guest is almost ready. I'll give him a little bit of time to get his shit
organized.
Together. But he's a professional, so I could just throw him one and it'd be fine. But all
right, and go.
But yeah, you gotta have a pulse. You gotta have a pulse.
Well, I think though the part of that too is the idea that we've always kind of had this notion that if you worked at a fast food place, that wasn't real work, and that's bullshit. That shit's hard work. I worked at a fast food place for 2 years. I busted my ass. That was hard work.
Right.
Like that shit's tiring.
well, that and they understaff all these places. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, why does Walmart have 400 cashiers and only 3 people working them? Because they only staff 3 people. So like blame the fucking managers. They don't, so all these people are overworked and underpaid, and that's what makes it hard. If they had everybody there, if they had enough people to man those places, then yes, I could see where you can say, oh, this is an easy job. But when you have to do 4 fucking jobs, for again, not a living wage. Living wage is where we need to be. And Kelly says they're pulling out all the stops, hiring by text, paying daily.
Wow.
Damn.
That I had.
Damn. What was that when we were growing up? Paying daily.
You never had a job paying you under the table? I did.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. But it was still,
but that felt so skeezy, like you were doing something against the law. But it was still every week though, or not me. Like mine was like I got paid every day for what I did. But I was also like 15 fucking years old, so I thought it was great. I was like, yeah, man, this is awesome.
Yeah, also so employers can cry inflation and then rake in billions. And that's what clearly happened during COVID, because we all got poorer and those motherfuckers got richer.
Way richer.
So
yeah.
Absolutely. So without further ado, it's time to bring on our guest. A fast friend of mine. We met during COVID. Because I started working with the Black Fathers Foundation like before COVID, but during COVID we really cranked it up. He is and was our MC for Black Fathers Foundation. Now I'm forgetting what it's called. I'm gonna bring him on so I don't look like a fucking idiot. What's up, Barry? Man, Doug, as this show has gone on, I can't remember shit. I can't.
Welcome, Barry.
Hey, man. Welcome. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate the invite. Thank you very much. I apologize for the technical difficulties. You know how that happens when you're like, oh, yeah, I'm all set. And nothing works. Update now. Update. Spinning. So
friggin' dreaded Windows updates.
Right.
Foundation conversations. It's really that difficult.
Kelly, you took the words right out of my mouth. Thank you.
It's really that. Great. It was really that difficult. You have a foundation, you got a conversation, and fuck it. So anyway, Barry, what's going on, brother? What is in the glass? Do you have anything? Has it been a crazy ass week for you, like it was for me?
It was like this was 2 fingers earlier when I started putting my technical difficulties, and then it just kind of dwindled down really quickly. Mm-hmm. So this is my handy dandy Woodsford Reserve.
Woodford Reserve, baby.
Double oak.
Okay.
Double oak. Not sure I've had the double oaked one, but
it's double, all right.
It's
It's Friday.
That's a bourbon.
It is a bourbon.
Okay.
It's a very good bourbon. I drink mine neat, so that I get all the flavors, a little bit of the bite, still smooth on the back end. So I've come a long way since my 21-year-old days where I just drank Grand Marnier. So cheers.
Is it cheers? Is that your beverage of choice when you have to pull one out as bourbon?
Yes, it is. Bourbon is or scotch. So there's some. Yes, I'm a huge.
Hey, you see my name there on the screen, right? Scotch.
Exactly. Scotch fully yours.
So
and
is
now,
it the Doug? This is your question. You ask him. Is it the peaty stuff or what?
Yeah,
what is it about? What is about? Yeah, what is about scotch that gets you?
So I have to tell you this experience. Lafroig is probably the best scotch experience because when I was 20 something and tried it, it was like, what is wrong with this? Why would you put this in front of me? The 40 something guys like, where have you been all my life? So it is an acquired taste. The peats are not for everybody, but I love it. I don't know, something about my palate has changed. So I'm either bourbon or scotch, and I'm the sipper guy. So you'll see me in the corner with a cigar, just lightly with the tilt and the nod and with the wink. So, that's it for me. But can I just comment, because you guys were talking about the frontline workers, and I personally think, being a person who was a bartender early on in my life, working in the service industry, that I personally think that should be a law that everyone should work in the service industry for at least 2 years out of their life, so they understand service, and that it's just not like sometimes you're making $2 an hour, so you're working for tips. Tips. Jerry, I see you, man. Lafroig does rock, man. Thank you. I'm sorry, I got a little excited.
No worries.
So yeah, I hate the fact, and hate is such a strong word, but I must use it. Hate the fact that our frontline workers, our service industry workers, are basically taken advantage of because they're hourly employees, and the folks at the top really don't care, because as long as they're making their bottom line, why should I worry? So I love the fact that they have to be forced to pay a living wage now, because I remember there were people in the industry that would work 2 or 3 different service industry jobs at a time. And when the pandemic hit, they actually realized, wait a minute, I'm getting this stipend or, this help, and I'm not required to work 3 jobs to live. And then you were upset that people didn't want to come back to work for the same crappy hourly wage. Get over yourself. So that's my 2 cents.
Reheat.
Hey, I'd also like to point out that Lafroig isn't the only good peaty scotch.
It is not. It is not.
Okay.
That is if I'm gonna have a go-to peaty scotch, that's my go-to is Ardbeg. Lafroig is close. That is definitely a really good one. If you've not had Talisker is excellent. We actually, my wife and I were in Scotland. We went to that distillery, and that was you went there and their samplings were free. How nice. You would never see that in the States. Like you would go there, and the Talisker thing was interesting. And sorry for the tangent here, but Talisker is like this distillery in this tiny ass Scottish town that can't be more than 300 people, and everybody works at the distillery. So you drive into this little town, and you drive it in, and everybody knows everybody's car. So it's like everybody's like watching you drive by. It was a bit creepy on that end, but you go in, and that was excellent. Like that's actually that, and Cow Ela is my wife's favorite one. So we're peaty scotch drinkers in this house.
That's actually pretty cool. But Pete's, it's not for everybody. So
no, it is not. No, it is.
It
not.
is an acquired taste. I acquired it somewhere along the line of nowhere. I'm just happy it came to me. It's like, this actually tastes good now, because I could do Lafroig, or I could do like my dad used to drink Johnny Walker Red, and that has a bite to it. So I was like, okay, let me elevate. So I love the blue, the gold. So it's like smooth like butter. That gold is just
but that blue one that'll run you some bucks.
Oh yes, that's special occasions only.
Yeah, that is a $250-$300 bottle of scotch. So
that's only for me. Only for me and my special friends. You guys are invited.
Special occasion only. I love that. Did y'all have a grandfather? My grandfather was a drinker, and he would only pull out. I didn't understand when I was a kid that like only on like certain times, whether it be like a funeral or like a wedding, he would pull out. Like he's like, oh, I'm gonna go pull out the good shit, and I'm like, what? And I was like young, and like he only like, and then like a couple of him and his friends would like huddle around and like kind of like elbow everybody out and shit, and like have their glass there, and like, and he only poured like this much. I just never understood it as a kid. I was a kid, even like a teenager growing up. Like by the time I got to like 20s and I was drinking, he wasn't drinking like that anymore, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? He was, he was older, and he was just like, he would have some, but like, did y'all ever remember those experiences with your fathers and your elders where they would like drink? And then Barry, it was, I don't know about y'all, but it was styrofoam cups, like especially if he was like, if we were like out at like, like if we were at like at a wedding, it would be like a styrofoam like cooler, styrofoam cups,
and everyone gathers around,
right?
Like
right,
only the in crowd, only the in crowd,
right? Like the trunk was up. And he had it like in the back, and he was like, and it was like, he's like, this is the good shit. Like he would say it, and like, and everybody would just like converge, and then they would just all sit there, and then they would just start, telling, somebody would bust out a cigar, and they would just start, telling, oh, you remember when you were young? Right. Y'all have any experiences like that when you were young?
Barry?
Oh, absolutely, man. Like my dad, again, I came up, I actually watched my dad because not only did he elevate his spirits, he elevated his beer. So I remember from a young age, it was Miller High Life. That was just his choice of drink. And then one day, this green bottle came in. I was like, what is this? Lowenbräu. Then next thing I know, it was Heineken. And that's what he drank all the way up till he passed. But it was like Heineken and a little scotch. And I remember not everyone could have the Heineken. If you put some of that Coors Light over there, this Heineken is not for you, So
right. I'll give you a little sip, but that's all you're getting.
That's not for you. So I definitely, and I can honestly say personally, I messed up in my 30s. I would try to introduce my family to family gatherings, just like something new that I found. It was like this great bottle of bourbon or something, and I quickly found out you can't do that. That's why you have to say, I got the good stuff, and only key people come around, because I would have certain people come in and say, this tastes like grass. Well, you know what? Give me that back, please. Thank you. You don't appreciate this.
There's some grass over there. Go at that.
Right. So, yes. Be very sparingly with your good stuff. That's my advice to anyone listening and talking, because not everyone appreciates your wonderful palate.
True. Doug?
We didn't have that experience really, because my family wasn't like a bunch of drinkers. So my dad would drink like Rolling Rock. That was his beer, and he always had some of it. Ironically, when I got to college, my fraternity would get Rolling Rock all the time because it was very cheap, but not a great beer. And my grandfather would drink Jenny Cream Ale, and that is just vile stuff.
but you didn't. No one drank Rolling Rock for the taste, if I recall. You drank Rolling Rock to get a buzz.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I think when you first start, it's like this at that time you think this tastes like shit, but I'm going to get a buzz out of it, so
right.
I'll power through this, and then by the fourth beer, you don't care what it tastes like, so it doesn't matter. And and then I think as I got older, like Barry mentioned, you get in your 30s, and you're like, oh well, maybe I could have stuff that actually doesn't taste like paint thinner. That would be good. And then you start exploring, and that's how I started probably in my late 20s. There was a restaurant near me that had 100 beer club. So you had to try 100 different beers. You get your name on the wall in like a wood plaque.
Ooh, nice.
And so you had to try 100 different craft beers. It wasn't like you could just drink, 100 Coors Lights. You could drink one Coors Light and that counted, but you couldn't have that again to count toward your 100. And you had Zima and Smurfs, sure enough. Oh.
Zima. But hold up, I'm sorry, Zima with the blue carousel in it. You know, they make it blue in the club.
Yes, yes. Or a shot of Sandborg is what I used to do.
Yes.
That was
Make it look fancy.
make it red.
Just to get lit, correct. Right. Doug, and then Roller Rock reminds me of Mayor of Easttown. You ever see that show, Barry?
Yeah.
Love that show.
Loved it too. But I loved how she was you could tell she was always drinking Roller Rock because I mean her life is fucking stressful. So like there's all kinds of shit going on with that lady's life. So like you could always tell she was like, and she was pounding it too. It wasn't like she was like sitting there easing it back. She was like right, with the Rolling Rock.
I gotta get this buzz and get that shit out of my brain.
Look, I gotta get this in.
Fabulous show, y'all. If you ever watch it, it's fantastic. I binged that in like 3 days. That was really, really good. But
I'm actually jealous that you were able to binge it because I watched it week to week. So I was like, what's going to happen next? I mean, like, what's she going to do next week? So, yeah.
Right. Oh, I binged that motherfucker. Doug told me about it, and then it took me a while to get to it. But then, like, you know, it's one of those shows where y'all know, once you see the first one, you're hooked. So, like, once you get past, like, the first, like, half an hour, you're like, damn, what the hell is going on in this fucking crazy shit? So then, like, but I love the, Barry, because I'm from Eastern Pennsylvania. So I loved all those references. I got every location reference. I got the Rolling Rock, the Yingling, the Wawa, and then the way that Kate Winslet and even I'm pretty sure her daughter too, they're British. Mm-hmm. And the way that they, you know, like Doug said too, Doug's like, man, Doug's like, this is your shit, man. Like, you're from Eastern Pennsylvania, you're gonna love this shit. Like, you have to watch it. And the way that they were able to, water and all they the different. Yeah, they got it, and they really got it. So, I love it. But it just reminded me of Rolling Rock though, because again, in the show, when she was drinking it, they were pounding it. It was always like, and that's what you do with Rolling Rock. You don't sip Rolling Rock. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna have.
Definitely don't let it get warm.
Right. I'm gonna have my boys.
Because you won't drink it.
Right. That's another reason why you gotta slam it. Correct. So speaking of that, though, leads me to. I wasn't even thinking of the subject, Doug, when I got Barry on, but Barry is going to tell us and inform us how Barrel and Flow was last year because Barry went and we didn't go, Doug, because of Doug was in another country, I believe.
Yes, I was in Iceland.
I was not feeling well, and I had to cancel. So Barry, I was wanting to meet Barry there. We had it all set up, and it just didn't work. So what happened, Barry, at Barrel and Flow? How was it? What was going down with all the black people, black brewers, and all that fantastic shit?
So I can honestly, I will definitely go back again because I didn't experience everything the way I would have wanted to because it was just so much. So as a first timer, it was great to be part of the little VIP. I get to go into the tasting room early that day. And I saw I guess there was an ultra VIP because my wife and I got there. I was like, well, they're letting some people in. Let's just try to get in. And she's like, oh yeah, sorry. You guys have the tickets that allow you. You're VIPs, but you're not these VIPs. I'm like, okay. All right. Hurt my little heart a little bit. You know, my feelings okay. But it was a great experience, even down to they were very serious about COVID restrictions. They were very serious about getting tested or having a vaccination. You know, they were just like really serious about that. So that made me feel more comfortable. The fact that we were outside made me feel more comfortable. And the fact that I found just about every beer that I never knew about that a black person made or was part of. And I'm just sipping. At some point, I was sipping so much. I'm like, my wife's like, you okay? I said, I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful. This is a good time. So we found an area where there was some food and I was able to get some barbecue. And it was just a great experience. Very well organized. I've been to others that were not organized well at all. It was just kind of a free for all. And that, I have to say, was the top tier. I wanted, after looking at the program, I saw that Friday night you could have actually had dinner or like a happy hour with some of the brewers, and you got Sunday you could have done the brunch with the brewers. Next time I go, I'm definitely doing that just because I want to know. But it was my first time, so I wanted to come in and just kind of experience. And then we just took the whole Saturday. I mean, we got there, we had breakfast early, and just went straight there. And we were there, probably enjoyed a couple of shows because there were some performers, and it was just great, man. And the weather was perfect. And I hadn't been to Pittsburgh in a long time, and that was a perfect area for it. I mean, it was just great all the way around. So kudos to the folks over there. Whoa. March 1st, 2022. Good to know. Thanks, Jerry. You're in the know.
Yeah, and it's in August this year. It's not in September, which works a little better for me because my birthday and my anniversary are both in September. So it's I'm hoping COVID pending because I'm high risk, so I have to be really careful about where I go. So and when I go. So it's something where, if it's there and COVID's finally a little more manageable, then I think I can go. I still have a VIP ticket from 2020 that I can use because they honored that up into 2023. So if you have one and you couldn't go, that will be honored up into 2023. But I'm hopeful that I'll be able to go this year.
Fingers crossed, man. It was really a good time, man. I there was a couple of times when I was reaching out to Greg and Matt, and I'm like, hey, I'm here. Where are you guys? And I missed you guys, man.
Greg, give me
right.
That was one of the responses for sure.
Right.
Bitch, leave me alone.
Right. My bad. This is really good.
Right. Nah, but I was the one who told Barry, so I was really, really happy to see you and the lady have a good time. And I was just, FOMOing and just missing, meeting your wife because you and I have worked together, pretty much all through COVID almost, it felt like. Mm-hmm. And it would have just been cool to meet the lady behind the man and all that. But I am Doug, I am pretty sure I'm going to be attending Barrow Flow this year. Can't be 100%, of course, but I'm already preparing. So, and I don't know. I'll probably buy tickets March 1st. It's one of those things, Barry, to me, like if even if I don't go, I at least supported the cause. Yes. I paid for last year's ticket. You know what I mean? So at least I am enabling other people to have a great experience, and I'm supporting Black brewers everywhere. So it's a no-brainer for me, really. And yeah, the VIP levels of VIP. What the hell? Yeah. But the VIP though, Barry, is the way to go in my opinion. Because you can get in early, and again, sometimes the crowd. I don't know how the crowds were. I don't know how the crowds were for you, but I was able to get in early when I went, and the crowds were. I mean, the crowds came later, but they weren't. It wasn't too bad. Nah. But the fact that I could move around a little bit even easier, was good. And I don't know what happened when you were there because I was there the year before COVID, but like. The food ran out, Barry. I was like enjoying myself so much, like with the beer and just like, going around and talking to people and meeting people that I'm like, I'll eat later. And then I'm like, damn, I'm going to go back over to the food trucks. And by the time I got there, like half of them were like, we sold out of our food. I was like, motherfuckers, that shit looked good. Like, I don't know if the food was as good. I wasn't there, so I can't compare. But the food was it was as good as the beer was. Yes. And then the entertainment was as good as the food was. I mean, everything was just top notch. It was like, and when I go to these things, Doug, I'm all about the beer. And I don't really care about your food and your fucking stupid, your stupid stage people. I don't really care if you're singing, and usually just have people up there like singing karaoke and shit. They had really, really good performers that like took your attention. Like you're like, damn, I want to stop and like listen to what the hell's going on. So that sounded like that's what was going on. I mean, it sounded like it was just the same thing extended, just another year, and that's great. Yeah, the walking footprint was much bigger in 2021 and 19. Like a good walking workout, Jerry said.
Yes. Yes. I remember. So that was the difference. Like later on in the evening, it was definitely busier.
Yeah.
So like we were there earlier, obviously. It was like pre-lunch type action. So some of the folks weren't even fully set up. So by the time we came through that first row and hooked the right, then came back down to the left. By the time we got back, maybe around 2, 3 o'clock, everything at the front was like packed. So that's like where everyone kind of starts at, and then just kind of lines start forming,
Gotcha.
and it was great to kind of get that initial, talk to folks. You meet them, they start telling you their story. Like I would have never known that you can just say, I have an idea for a beer. Let me partner with you because I like apple pie. I had an apple pie beer,
Yes.
and I was like, okay, I don't normally do this. This is amazing, So this is great.
Cheers.
Yes,
Cheers.
indeed. Cheers.
Yeah. Yes, Kelly. This year.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it this year. Let's go. We were trying to go last year, but yeah. So yeah, Doug. Are you have another beer, Doug?
I do, because I just finished mine.
Yes.
So this is going to be an interesting one because it's a style of beer that I don't see a lot, and it was aged in whiskey and Bordeaux barrels. So this is going to be a whole bunch of stuff. So from Clown Shoes, this is an old ale aged in Whistle Pig, rye, and ex Bordeaux barrels.
Wow.
So an old ale is not one I see a lot. I don't know if you do, Greg, but I don't see a lot of old ales.
No, no, they have to be aged. So anything aged is, you know how that goes, Doug.
Yep. Not a lot of barrel aging scent on the nose. I wonder if the Bordeaux's kind of offsetting that.
Clown Shoes. Yeah, it's a good brewery.
So got a nice
Clown
little
Shoes.
head going on there. Nice, kind of almost an amber note to it, right? That looks kind of like you get the old ale because you get more of an amber color to it.
Yes, you do. Nice malt. It should be nice and malty too.
Okay, so on the nose now, as I'm getting it, I can get a little bit of the bourbon nose. It smells really sweet. Like, that's interesting.
Yes, sir. I wonder if
that is a great color.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, bourbon on the mouthfeel is coming for you, baby.
Okay.
So this is good, but this is not one you pound down. It's 11% for one. For two, it's got all those flavors in it. Because it has those bourbon notes that are so prominent, you're gonna want to really, and it blends super nice with the malt flavor, like in the old ale. Like that really blends really. I don't get a lot of Bordeaux on the palate, but on the nose I do. That makes sense. So, but this is. And unfortunately, they didn't have them in a smaller. This thing is like a 20-ounce can. It's friggin' huge. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm having only 2 beers tonight, so that will be it for me. So, but cheers. This is really good. If you can find it, it's called Flight to Bolivia.
Flight to
Bolivia.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And I am a Clown Shoes does have some really excellent can art. I mean, there's a cool little looking owl, like almost looks like an owl and a dragon had a baby. It's really cool looking label. And I'm a big can art and bottle art fan. So I saw this. I was like, okay, it's Clown Shoes and it has cool art. So I'm getting.
There we go.
But that can was about $10. So just a forewarning.
$10 a can. Yikes.
Yeah, but it's a 20-ounce can.
20 ounce.
And it's 11% alcohol. And have Whistle Pig barrel aging. So like, I don't think you can go wrong with that.
I feel you.
All right.
I got this right now. Irish High Five Red Pale Ale. Doug, you've had this one.
Yes, I have.
Yep. This is from our guest last week who sent us a whole bunch of beer, and Doug and I are still finishing it.
Mm-hmm.
Because Doug and I are not drinking beer like we used to currently. 6% though, Doug. This is pretty good for a nice red pale ale here. Barry, I don't think if I recall correctly, you're not a big beer guy. I mean, you like it, but you're not beer. So
I go
going to
through
Barrel-
phases.
Yeah,
I go
so
through phases.
Oh, okay. So Barrel and Flow was probably really good for you in the aspect of trying different shit and having different shit presented to you, because they although most of those beers that you probably had, or at least when I went in 19, thanks Jerry for bringing that up, was 19. Last time I went was 19. 20 was the pandemic, so they had a virtual, and 21 was last year. 19, Barry, they really had was their collabs. So they didn't really have once a couple breweries had like some of their beer that they normally like, some of their normal beer, but most of them just had the collab. And I like that because I love that actually, because it made it exclusive to the whole thing, but it also made it like, unique in an aspect of like, the one I liked, if I recall correctly, was a lemon pie beer. That shit was amazing, actually.
That sounds awesome.
But yeah, so that's I'm gonna let you describe yourself, but where are you at beer wise? Because Doug and I will drink pretty much anything that's put in front of us. So
that sounds about right. That sounds about right.
Okay.
It sounds about right. Yeah, it's good. It's good. That's a good description. Good description.
We're not saying we like it, but we're saying like if it's put in front of us and it's different and it's new, we haven't had it before. Yeah, we're gonna try it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, go ahead, Barry. Sorry,
no. Go ahead. I was just responding. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I would like to put that to the test, because I had on the show a while back after we got back from Iceland, we bought a sheep dung smoked whiskey, because that's how they impart smoke flavors over there. Because the sheep dung is hardened and they burn it, so that's how they impart the smoke flavor.
I would try it.
And I pulled that out, and Greg was like, "No."
I was sipping it.
Right.
No, I'm gonna tell you, it doesn't taste like shit. That's the thing, is that people think that's what it tastes like. It doesn't. It just adds smoke flavor to it, and it's really good.
So Barry, I don't know if you saw this, but we're gonna play it again.
Wow. No, I had not seen that.
Yeah, I think we played it about 10 times already this show. So
Love
while
it.
you were
Love
updating, that's what we were doing.
Right. And since you haven't seen it, I feel I could play it like at least 4 more times.
I'm trying to learn the words now, right?
I told you we were going to ask you about the unfortunate things that are happening in Ukraine right now. I don't know if you wanted to opine on that, or we could just move on.
It's funny. Yeah, I'll comment. This reminds me of a toxic relationship where you have a woman who finally gets out of a bad relationship, moves on, meets other people, makes other relationships, is on the right track, but that guy she let go of just can't let it go. So the first thing he does is kind of just start parking out in front of her house and sitting and waiting. And then she's calling, say, "Hey, listen, he's in front of my house again. I left this behind. I've moved on. I don't want this." But this clown is adamant about getting back into her life. And it's unfortunate that this happens. Breaks in the door, gets back into their lives, and is making it a living hell. And it breaks my heart. So I actually know someone that I've worked with on a project, and his wife has ties there. So that made it even more personal because now I know someone that knows people that are there, and that's like makes it even more real that it's a takeover. It's an invasion. This was not wanted. And there was no one at the door to protect them. They just kind of took over. It's sad. It's sad. I don't have any positive things.
Yeah, it's not. When and where was that? And then she answered that was Turkey. Yes. So like I was telling Doug before, when you were having problems, it's hating Vladimir Putin has become a worldwide thing. And then also too, which is a good segue, Barry. Thank you for telling me this because I've been wanting to at least speak out a little bit about this. When you were talking about that and you were making that analogy between someone who's being stalked or old girlfriend and all that to what's going on with Ukraine and Russia, it's a great analogy, by the way. And I didn't really even think of it in that manner, but it's pretty much clearly what the hell's going on. Pretty much clearly what the hell's going on. That brings me to Kanye and Kim, and it's almost the same thing. And I feel the same thing. And just one or two things I just want to say about this, and I'll let y'all have your thing. One thing I don't like about the commentary behind this is everybody prefaces what they say about this situation by saying, well, I don't really like Kim. I don't care whether you like her or not. That's not really a factor in any of this, whether you like the Kardashians or not. They're fucking human beings, and no one should be treated in this manner, in my opinion. So what your opinion of Kim is, with all due respect, has nothing to fucking do with anything. So shut up about it. I don't really care whether you like him or not. I personally, with all due respect, don't like Kanye. I like, what's that one song? I like the old Kanye. I don't like the new Kanye. Right. I like the old fucking Kanye from 15 years ago when he was all about really being a different person, a different rapper and all this. This new guy now, I don't know what he is. He's a fucking mess. And I'm tired of the whole thing. And he needs to leave that lady alone. I don't give a shit whether you like her boyfriend or not. It doesn't fucking matter. They haven't done anything to you. It's fucking dangerous because Kanye has a lot of people who follow him and like him, and him running around saying all this shit. And what really bugs me about Kanye, Barry, the worst, is that like now he's like this big religious guy. And now he's acting completely non-religious. Fuck you, Kanye. You're a fucking asshole for that. Like, he's an asshole. Like, this one whole album was Jesus this and Jesus that. Well, Jesus doesn't act this way. This isn't how Jesus wants anybody to act. Like, hello? What the fuck? Leave the lady alone. God damn it. And who cares if she's a Kardashian or not and whether you like her? Fuck that. I don't give a shit. It has nothing to do with whether this man is mistreating her or not and acting a goddamn fool. Anyone else?
Doug, you go ahead.
You're gonna let me follow that up. Oh, thanks, right. I really appreciate that. That's great.
Anything I can do to help. Anything.
Sorry, can you tell I've been waiting to get rid of that for a while?
Well, I'm going to say this, and this is going to sound perhaps blasphemous, but I have never liked Kanye. I have never liked his music. A handful of songs I dig, but he has always struck me as being. Now, listen, you can be eccentric and be kind of out there and be a genius and do all this stuff, and people kind of tie that word to him for how he raps and what he writes. I've never thought that of him, but that's me personally. That's more of a taste thing on that. But what he's doing to Kim Kardashian that's abuse. It's straight up abuse. It's the kind of shit that women put up with all the time and shouldn't have to. And he's doing it loudly. He's not doing it like, hey, I'm texting you and you fucking get rid of that joker, Pete Davidson or whatever. Hey, listen, Pete Davidson is not my cup of tea, but like, hey, you know what? Guess what? She likes him. Then and he's been out with other women. It's not like publicly dating other women. Like Get over your shit, dude. Listen, like, you had a marriage, you had kids together. That shit didn't work. All right. And I remember hearing him, he was like, they were the words was that he was very infatuated with her, was the word, was infatuated, and he would chase her a lot. And that never sat right with me, if that makes sense. It always felt very, very stalkerish even from the beginning. But again, that's my spidey senses. I could be totally wrong, but what he's doing is not okay. And he has a big platform. He has a lot of people who care about him. Like Greg said, people who will do what they think is right by him. And that puts Pete Davidson, it puts her kids in danger, because
They're kids.
They're kids. And it puts all of them in
right.
danger. And I think that's I think she should get a freaking restraining order or something, because that guy is off the deep end. And you're right, Greg, like, if you're going to be a person who says I'm very much in tune with God and all that stuff, and great, good for you, but then you should embody that. And what he's doing does not embody that at all. And rant.
Someone's more eloquent than me.
You know, sometimes we need a hard F you. Like, Greg, I count on you to go, man, fuck you, Kanye. Fuck you. I count on that, you know. That's the main reason I didn't want to follow up. I said, I got nothing better. But I'm glad you brought this up, because what concerns me the most is Kanye actually has acolytes. He has people that actually will follow him. When he was, quote unquote, running for president, there were quite a few folks that were like, yeah, I vote for him. In what bizarre world do you live in? But I realized that he has followers. And I used to clown my son about it, because my son was a huge Kanye fan when he was young. I mean, huge. And I used to always say, you listen to this depressing dude rap? This is some of the most depressing stuff. But, you know, that was during his dark time, whatever. But the problem I have with Kanye is his camp, his people around him, because they're enabling him. They know there's a problem. They know he should be on medication. Kim has said it plenty of times. Listen, how do you deal with a person who doesn't want to help themselves? The medication takes away from my creative juices. So your excuse now is I can't do what I love to do because the medication is blocking that. So I'm going to stay off of it. But then you turn into this raving lunatic at the same time. So you can't have it both ways. And the Black community has ignored mental health issues for so long that we've become accustomed to, well, I don't really like Kim anyway. I you know, I didn't think she was all that anyway. Well, that's not the point. The point is he is off his meds. Right. He's doing things wrong. He is blatantly harassing her, not, to Doug's point, via text, on Twitter, social media. So how many folks are jumping on his bandwagon and following down that same rabbit hole, harassing her because she didn't give him the time of the day and she's tired. She doesn't want to deal with it anymore. So that's my problem. I'm like, whoever's in his circle, whoever's in his camp needs to step up and say, listen, man, we got to get you some help. I know you're paying me, but at the same time, I want you to be better. Take your meds, man. Get back to it. So that's all I have to say, man.
I would like to say that when you just said that, Barry, it gave me this whole parallel that I hadn't thought about until you mentioned it, was his camp. It reminded me very, very much of the Mike Tyson camp. That guy needed help, and nobody gave him help because they just wanted to ride the gravy train. And I feel that is a lot of what happens in Kanye's camp. And it's a shame because that guy does need help. He does. He's off. He said publicly, I'm off my meds. Well, listen, man, there's no shame in meds. If that helps regulate you, listen, I'm on fucking 5,000 meds because of my heart attack. Yeah, I'm on a lot of meds. It's the same thing. If you have mental health and you have mental health issues, and you have medicine that helps you manage that, that's health. That's your overall health. It's not just about what physically ails you. Like I just saw the idea of watching that train wreck of Mike Tyson just kind of careening down his path, that you saw all the self-destruction and all that stuff. And it feels a lot like that. Maybe I'm wrong. We're all men of a certain age that can appreciate what Tyson was when he was the baddest motherfucker on the planet.
On the planet.
Like, for how long? But there was a rage in him that he couldn't control. And the people fed on that and used it in boxing. But then he got famous and he had money and all that stuff. And he just couldn't handle it. And, you know, I think he's in a better place now. But it took a lot of time for him to get there. I think Kanye is somebody that could really benefit from just getting that. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Maybe I'm just off my rocker there. That's what it looked like to me.
Well, and Chris brings up a good point, which is he's been off since his mom died. And then Kelly says it's sad, watch the documentary. So as far as this, I'm feeling, I'm all, as Drake would say, I'm all up in my feelings about Kanye. So I don't know if this is the time to watch a documentary, but I will at some point, Kelly, for sure, because I hear it just shows nothing but good as far as his mother goes. And his mother seems to be the only one in his camp, going back to Barry's point, that could keep Kanye in check. Like, she could tell him, look, motherfucker, you need to slow down. And he would listen to her. I don't think he listens to anyone besides his mom. So when she left, like Chris said here, I believe that's when it all started going downhill as far as his mental health and all that, and whether he keeps up with that and all that. I do cringe a little bit, though, and we can talk about this too. This is another little thing, when people just blame all his behavior on mental health, because Pete Davidson said, or somebody said that too. Pete Davidson said something like it, but he joked about it on Saturday Night Live a while ago. Just because you deal with mental health doesn't mean you're a fucking asshole. So, like, there's that aspect of it too that I'm not. I mean, I know, you know, the man tells us that he has mental health issues and he takes meds, so he told us that. So that is a fact. It's a matter of record, and it's a fact. But at the same time, I don't know if I want to just, blame that or just use that as an excuse for his assholeless behavior. You know what I'm, Doug? So I'm conflicted here. You got anything on that one? The mental health aspect of it.
Yeah, it's a tricky road, right? Because we're still kind of understanding mental health. If you really think about it, just how that's a fairly recent, as far as all of, like, we've all heard about people, well, that person's nuts. And you always heard that when you were a kid, and there was a guy who was on your block, or who really, he needed help and he couldn't get help. And everybody just like, hey, we know he needs help, but just, whatever. And they would just, there's people that need help, and we're now getting to the point where we understand more about it. Now, we don't completely get it, but you look at things like neurodivergence and ADHD and things, like, people are actually just starting to really understand how that works to some degree. Not completely, but, like, the thing is, people need, I think we're more open now as a society to getting people help they need. It's just some people don't want it. And if you're a person with power and you have means, other people are not going to tell you no. They're not going to tell you not. You know what I mean?
Right.
Anyway,
what's
that's my
Barry?
So yeah, and I want to comment on that too, because it's because you're right. Being an asshole, I mean, sometimes that's a choice, as far as I'm concerned. Like, speaking from an asshole perspective, I've grown up a lot.
Hell yeah,
I've matured, but I also realize. So I have family members that I've seen get on meds, and I've seen them where prior to me believing that something was wrong, I was like, oh, they just make bad decisions. They just really make some really bad decisions. And then I saw them get that medication balanced out, and it was a completely different person. It was just like, oh my God, you're like nice. I just thought you were just making bad decisions and doing some dumbass shit. But the reality was, there's something not firing right. And I'm not saying, like, again, I have family members where I'm involved with their life. they don't take their meds. I go see them periodically just to make sure they're good. And their neighbors are like, listen, man, you. I mean, I personally know he's harmless, but if you catch the wrong person out there and they're triggered, who knows what could happen? So, I mean, like I've heard him say to people, "You're going to hell. You're going to hell." And like some people are like, "Well, you gonna take me to hell?" And that just triggers other people's stuff. So, going back to Kanye, where sometimes you could. That sounded so good, man. I don't even know what it is. I just heard the.
Yeah, that was Craig.
I was like, oh man,
it's spilling all over the place. But anyway,
it doesn't matter. But it sounded really good. It was like, oh, just right. What are we drinking?
What point are we making there?
Right. What were we talking about again?
Right.
But I
my bad. That was wrong. I gotta learn how to mute myself.
But it sounded so good. See, right?
Like a bunch of meerkat. They're crack.
Right.
You heard that? That sounded so good. Look, I don't even want to talk about this anymore, Greg. What you drinking, man?
Right.
Damn this. He'll be all right. Somebody in his camp is gonna get him straightened out. Greg, what you drinking, dog?
Right. Anyway, Barry, my bad.
No, I'm serious. What you drinking, man? What you drinking?
Yeah, what are you drinking? Show us.
Right.
All right. I'll go there, Barry. We'll get back to you. Doug, it's just a fantasy factory. It's one of the best IPAs in this town. But look at this bottle.
I love that. I love that can.
Yeah, the cat with riding a unicorn and the unicorn with the eyes and
shooting flames.
Yeah, shooting flames and a gun, and there's all kinds of stuff going on with this. It's just great. It's a great IPA though. Nice. Nicely balanced. Doug, have I ever sent you a Fantasy Factory? I should. Anywho, Barry, what were you saying? You were talking about mental health and
we don't want to nip that. Let's finish out what we were talking about there.
I feel like I was finished, but
it's okay.
Yeah, that can is an acid trip. It really is. Take me there. At some point, and I always say being an asshole is a choice because I was that guy, and I stopped. I made a choice of not being an asshole. I mean, it was just sometimes you didn't realize you were being an asshole. I thought I was just saying some really funny shit, but turns out that not my funny shit was hurting people's feelings, and didn't realize I was being an asshole. And if your mental capacity is to not have a filter, and those synapses aren't firing right, and you're just blurring out. I mean, because think about it. We go through a bad breakup. Yeah, you might want to say some things, but do you really? You think it, but do you just? And I know this is part of that generation where you put your entire thoughts out into the world so they know, everyone knows. But common sense, which is not common, I know. Common sense would say, you know what? Let me just call her. But in Kim's defense, she's tired. Why would you? She's been dealing with this for years. Mm-hmm. This didn't just happen a month ago. She's been keeping it quiet. I mean, like I don't care if you don't like the Kardashians. I would never watch the show because I was just like, okay, this is just not my thing. But she made something out of nothing. Like I've seen clips of when she was Paris Hilton's assistant. This is pre-plastic surgery, so she was just kind of this skinny girl following behind Paris, and she blew past Paris as far as I'm concerned. It's the socialite and billionaire and all this other stuff. So I need her to make sure she's protected. I need to make sure that her camp or his camp and her camp are talking to say, let's get Kanye some help, man, because he's out there by himself and y'all just letting him run loose. And to your point, like that whole Mike Tyson thing, I cried the night he lost to Buster Douglas. I remember like, oh my God.
Yep.
It was on HBO. And I'm like, he lost. a tear was like coming right down here. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's how invested I was in his success. And it was just like, this dude. And yeah, they got to get him. They got to get him straight. They got to get him straight. His team has to get him straight. And that's all I got to say about that.
So Jerry brings up a good, interesting point. The challenge for me is that it's hard to know what really is going on with these celebrity relationships. Sometimes it feels like the drama's for the camera and to drive album sales. It's for it's exactly what we're doing now. Keep the conversation going about them. It's like a reality show tactic being employed as part of the new album rollout these days. I thoughts. I got nothing. Yep. Kim protected him and respected him for so long, but everyone has a limit. Yes, man. Boom. Yep. Love that. Absolutely.
And to be fair, women do that shit a lot. A fucking lot.
They protect and respect for so long that at some point they just got to stop. And then the person who's being protected and respected can't take that abrupt, like that abrupt, like I'm done. Like they think they're going to get another chance and another chance. And Kim probably gave him like 600,000 chances. It feels like I'm not there. It feels like it though. It really does. It really, really feels like it. Yep. And then Kelly's like, "Yep, we do." Yep, Doug. Yep.
It is something weirdly that as I get older and I see more. That maybe doesn't make sense, but like I spent most of my life doing the I'm the nice guy thing, and I wasn't, but I thought I was because other guys were more dicks than I was.
Yep.
Well, that guy's worse than me. I'm a nice guy, but you know what? That was me utilizing as a way to get in with women. It really was, and it's shameful to me now.
Yeah.
But when I was doing it, I viewed it as that was, I'm not a particularly handsome guy. I so I had to find some way. I wasn't like I was really super scrawny. And so like my way was to just be nice, and I would be nice. And some women like that, others did not. But I use that as kind of a cudgel to get my way into dating or fucking women because I was a porn dog. And in hindsight, that just I'm really ashamed of that. And it's something that really fucks with my head now when I watch it, because you watch all these women just do backflips for guys that are just, they don't get it. And for whatever reason, whether they grew up that way or whether society has informed them that way, which is probably a mix of a bunch of different things, they guys just don't understand it. They just don't get it. Like, a woman is a person. They're a fully formed human, and that person needs love and attention, and you need to listen to figure out how to give that to them, because it isn't the same for anybody, just like it's not the same for any of us, but we need to give them the respect to hear that as well. And rant again. Sorry.
And I envision that's what Barry, because again, I met Barry at a nice, I'm not gonna say old, but ripe age where I can't even envision Barry being an asshole. I work with him on a bunch of projects, and I just can't see that. But that's what I envision when Barry says, I was an asshole when I was young. That's a kind of like what Doug was describing. I think we all kind of went through that as young males in this society, dating and all that, and we were all that way. Again, I don't want to speak for Barry because he speaks for himself. He's right there. But Doug, it sounds very much like, how I operated, or how I thought I should operate, or how we were told to operate, or how we saw other people operate and we thought, hey, that was a good idea. And I'm with you. I'm totally with you. And I don't know, Barry, you want to follow up or say anything to that. But yeah, Doug, I feel you on that sentiment for sure.
Doug, that was scary, man. You were in my head, seriously, man. Because
I'm gonna tell you, never watch the movie Promising Young Woman, because that will fuck up your nice guy thing really hard.
Promising Young Women. I'm gonna actually now I have to watch
it. It's a great movie. It will fuck with your head in ways that I can't explain, but it's super good.
Do you know where it is? Doug, or should I look
I think it's on HBO Max. But if you can watch it, it's Carrie Mulligan is a female lead in it, and she is unbelievable in it, and it will.
Oh, it's a new one.
And yeah, well, it's a newer one, and the lead main guy is Bo Burnham.
Yeah, HBO Max. HBO Max.
What's it called again?
Promising Young Woman. It takes that whole nice guy trope that guys use, like I did, and just completely obliterates it.
Barry, I'll send it to you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I'm going to tell you. Just watch that, and I apologize because it'll fuck your brain up. So.
Oh man, I look.
Anyway, Barry, I interrupted. Sorry.
No. It's funny because even up to my 30s, I was still hiding behind the nice guy routine because college years, you figured out that the guy that's being the complete dick, it's real easy to be like, what happened? Oh, he did what? Oh, yeah. But then I was no better because as soon as I got what I wanted, I was kind of on to the next. He did what? Oh, so it was, a friend of mine, we just talked about this not too long ago because we both have daughters. So it's like, oh my God, I have to do everything in my power to make sure that my daughters will have my man card. They will know every trick in the book. Like, I'm waiting for the day, Greg, you've heard me say this before. I'm waiting for the day one of them comes home and is like, Dad, he tried to hit me with, I love you. And I just want to imagine us just falling out laughing, because she's prepared. I've prepared her for the real world. And every game, some dude is going to run. So she's going to know the nice guy to the semi-nice guy to the guy that's like just bad news. I want her prepared. So at least I can say I did everything in my power to prevent someone preying on women in a certain way. But my buddy said it best. He was like, dude, I saw that as a target. Like the ones with, and I didn't know what it was then. I just knew it was easier. The one with daddy issues. All you have to do is just pay them just a little bit of attention. And they were just like happy and things just happen. You're like, oh, that was fairly easy. All I had to do was say hello. Oh, but now I want to go say hello to that one over there and forget all about her feelings here. And, that I still, again, even in my 30s, even though I wasn't doing anything wrong, my wife and I had long conversations. We've grown. And I finally realized that the access I was giving, playing behind the nice guy, I'm not doing anything. I'm not going anywhere. I'm always here with you. But the access I was giving to women outside of our marriage and our relationship was still too much. And I wasn't treating my wife like she was the priority in every sense. Like my phone can ring. I'm like, yeah, hello. Hey, what's going on? Yeah. Hi, what's going on? And my wife's standing right here and I'm answering the phone because there's nothing going on, but I'm answering calls from another woman who needs my help. And to try to play that whole Captain Save-A-Ho, not to go. Just, yeah. Even in my 30s, I was growing, so it was.
So Barry, what about this? Because you're a girl dad.
This baby's going to be yes. I need to make that into a t-shirt. My babies will be prepared, just snipers.
So along these lines, real quick, this is something I wanted to talk about. I'm going to put up a screenshot here of it. Along these lines here, our friends over at City Dads Group, they wrote an article about underage drinking under parental supervision. Is it ever okay? So like this is kind of the same conversation I believe that we're having right now, which is what do you I'll start with Barry. Barry, what do you think about not to, again, you can go further if you want, but not to get into Barry's personal life that deep, but like his daughters, I believe, aren't teenage years yet. So we have yet to get to that point. But Barry, have you and the lady talked about how y'all going to handle alcohol? My kids are in teenager years, so I could talk about that. My boys are teenagers. And Doug, Doug has teenagers and early and young adults, so we could ask Doug. Doug's probably navigated this more than us, but have you thought about this, Barry, as far as how does alcohol play into this? You are a former bartender, so I know that this is something that is in your head, and I know what we're talking about, the bartender-ish stuff led you to some of your asshole, in my opinion, actions, probably. You know what I mean, with the alcohol and all that.
Yeah.
So where are you on all this as far as your daughters go, and how you going to navigate that? You and the lady talk, where you at?
So it's funny. I remember at an early age, I was way younger. I remember hearing that in Europe, like kids were allowed to drink wine at the dinner table.
Mhm.
And I never actually heard the real statistic. I just remember hearing about it. And they said alcoholism wasn't the same. There wasn't a lot of, binging on alcohol because they learned how to drink at an earlier age. So it wasn't like this thing where the first time they get to college,
Right.
boom, or first time they had a party, it's just like boom.
Right.
So
Like me.
that's always been in the back of my mind. Now I do have a son. He's 24 years old. And I can talk about this now. I remember the first time we caught him inebriated. Hell, he was drunk. He was so bad. Like, I literally did not know what was going on. Walked into the bathroom.
Sorry, I'm laughing.
No, I can laugh now. Now I can laugh.
Right.
I mean, we called the ambulance because he was so just unresponsive. I mean, it was crazy. And he got into he was probably 14, 15 then. And he got into like my liqueur stuff. So like the sweet stuff, the stuff I use as mixers. And he just pounded it. I mean, it was just, and this is when Facebook was still somewhat new. He actually did a chronological thing where he's telling people how he's feeling as he's going through the process. And
almost scientific.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't think I remember the one line I remember the most is like, I can't feel my fingers anymore. And
he's typing.
Right, exactly. So, and obviously that wasn't something we planned for. And being former bartender, former this,
yep.
I will probably introduce my girls to wine at home early on, sipping, not full glasses, just because I want them to be able to say, I'm aware. This is how it feels when I have something in my body that my body shouldn't, that too much will affect me. And I want them to know and understand the difference between if somebody tries to spike the drink or, I just want to teach them all that stuff because former bartender, I saw a lot of predators too. And there was a lot of things that I saw that was like scary, like, hey, man. And I would play the boyfriend a lot just to get the predators away. Hey, just tell them you're with me. You just tell them you're with me. And, we kind of see him go off. Let me buy her a drink. And I've actually seen the whole palm thing. You buy the drink and they have the pill in their hand, they drop it in. And then here I have to go play. Let me go ahead and grab that for you. That dude, he's bad news. Just going about your business. So girl dad in me is like protector. I want to protect them. I want them to be aware. So probably not hard liquor, but definitely I will introduce them to wine in the teenage years at some point, just so I want them to be aware, just so they can see and experience. So and again, college, I remember the folks that first time their parents were so strict and they were just like, oh my, I was
ball out
with
it. They ball out when they get to college, right?
Yes.
Like, holy
yes.
shit.
Exactly. So right. Then you'd be like, whoa, slow down. So that's my take on it. Probably 15, 16, I'm thinking. But my wife and I have talked about it a couple of times, but we just want to make sure they're prepared for the real world. So yeah, we probably would, but nothing where I want them to get drunk at home. I just can't see that. Just my wife. My wife has only seen me drunk drunk once, one time. A couple of buddies came in from college, and to with your point, when you said this earlier, everything that was sat in front of me, I drank. Everything. It was just, I was back in school again, and I was just, and you know how you're working all the time. It's the first time you get to cut loose. Your boys are around. You're just having a good time, and just all the responsibility went away for one evening. That was me, and yeah, that she's talking. I've seen her drunk. Just I ran out of fingers and toes. But and that's the one she never lets me let die. Yeah, that was horrible. Yeah.
One time.
Right.
One time.
One time.
Right.
One time. So that's my take on it.
Doug, what you got?
So we're in a bit of a different spot here in that our kids are, so I have a 20-year-old, two 17-year-olds, and a 14-year-old. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying my 14-year-old is taller than me and bigger than me. He is a tank. So when I do the beer show, they're not here this weekend because they have some things they want to do at their mom's house because we're a blended family, so they're at their mom's. But when he's here in the show, I say, all right, I'm having these beers. Which one do you want to sample? And I will give him this much beer to try. My 17-year-old from my first marriage, he doesn't like booze at all. He's tried a couple of different things. Said, Dad, I just don't like it. It tastes gross. But, okay, great. I just wanted you to be informed of what stuff tastes like. And our both our 17-year-olds are like, hard pass. Like they're just not into it. And that's totally good. Our 20-year-old is in college, so he's had a fair share of trial and error with things. The one time he was home after it was his sophomore year, I think, I gave him 2 different IPAs that were about 5%. And I was like, oh, it's only 5% each. Won't be too bad. And he was drunk. And I was just like, and my wife was like, what are you doing? And she wasn't mad at me. It was more like I said, I thought it was it's 2 beers that are 5%. I didn't think, and they're like, yeah, but they're not you. I'm like, yeah, that's true. And I didn't consider that. And that's the thing. I hadn't considered that. And since then, I will offer him a beer if he's home from school. Here, you want to try this? Yep. Or if I try something I don't like it, here, do you want to try it? Yep. And he will take advantage of it. So for us, it's more about let's show you what it is. It can be enjoyed. It can be enjoyed responsibly. So we try to show it being enjoyed responsibly. And it's no different to us than like we have very open conversations about sex and sex ed and things like that. Because if you don't prepare your kids, it's like you said, Barry, when you go to school and you see those kids that have had no fucking instruction, guess what? When they get to school, it is just everything's open. So let's go. And they just don't have any, they're not prepared. And for me, I'd rather have them prepared when they're home where I can talk to them about what they're experiencing rather than just going out and just fucking letting it fly and not knowing what the repercussions are. Like if you're drunk, you're more susceptible to a lot of shit that you wouldn't do normally. So you need to be aware of that. And Barry, I've never been in a situation like you where I was at a bar and I had a bartender and watching stuff like that. I've never seen anybody palm something to somebody's drink. I have not. I would like to think I would think if I saw that, I'd be like, hey, stay the fuck away from that guy. But I've never seen it, but I want to be that person. And if I was now, I know I would. But when I was younger, I'm not sure I would have because at that age, I thought, wow, hey, good for you, dude. And that sounds terrible. It sounds terrible now. But back then, that was just like, all right. And
boys would be boys.
And we were told that for fucking ever. So it's terrible. Every time I say stuff like that and I think about just how much I was willing to not speak up. And this applies to a lot of shit, not just this. This applies to a lot of shit. I grew up in a super rural place in Pennsylvania. I saw a lot of racist shit I never said anything about. I've seen a lot of shit happen to women that I never said shit about. I feel terrible about that now, but again, at the time, you were just told to shut up and put your fucking nose down and go do your shit and leave them do what you're supposed to. It fucking sucks. It fucking sucks to have to undo that. And I'm glad I can now, but Jesus, I missed a lot of opportunities to help people. That's what sticks with me.
And that's not easy, man. I mean, like to go the separate direction of like the group and kind of be out on your own. So I don't feel, I mean, like, yeah, I know you feel bad because we all feel bad because, you know, like with age comes experience. And like now to your point, I would never let that go down. But there was quite a few times it was like, okay, all right, this is really getting out of hand now. I have to step in. Whereas other times it was like, not really my problem. Maybe I should think about this. Okay, squirrel, something else happening. So, okay, I'm going about my business. You know, and I remember at some point, I can't remember what age it was, but I remember at some point it was like, okay, I can't let this go. And so I'm like even worse now as a father. It's just certain things I'm just not going to let happen. It's just to even a stranger. I'm like, okay, that's somebody's daughter. That's somebody's child. That's somebody's like certain things is just not going to happen in my presence. Sorry, G.
Amen. No worries. One of the things that I was very, very, and I still am, but I was really more, when they were coming up was having them see me drink a lot of beer in a session. So I would go, little inside ball. I live 20 minutes north of Madison, Wisconsin. So we have like this big old house and I'm able to have my own room. So I didn't sleep in my own room, but I had my own room. So then when I came down to my computer and I was doing my work, or I knew I was going to be drinking a lot, I would make sure that my boys never saw me drink a bunch. I just didn't want my image. I didn't want that image to be like seared in their head because you don't know what kids are going to fucking remember when they're growing up. You know what I mean? They remember those, you know, Dad, you got drunk once and we saw your fucking ass and we remembered that shit. And like, you know what I'm saying? So that was one thing I was always aware of. But as they gotten older, you know, the boy just turned, our oldest one that's living with us, just turned 18 last month. And, you know, he had a couple sips of margarita for Christmas that the lady gave him. And we've asked him, hey, you know, do you want a little sip or you want to smell it? So I believe in, you know, you ain't getting drunk in my house. And I don't know if you're going to be of age living in my house to be able to get drunk. I just don't know. That's just not going to happen. But at the same time, or if it does, it's going to be kind of like what Barry went through, which is like he raided that shit without our fucking permission. But it's not going to be like something where we're going to be like here. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, we want him to have, you know, some kind of exposure to it under our supervision. To me, I think that as parents, we are our best kids' teachers. There's no teacher that can be better, you know, for your kids about life than us. Like they can go learn about Ukraine and Russia and the history of this and that at school. But with us, you know, Barry, we got to teach our kids life. We got to teach our kids the shit that, again, I don't know if I want to teach my kids this shit. So like, you know, that's another big question. So I feel that it's me, especially, and then, you know, I'm an aspiring beer expert. So, I mean, who's better to teach them about beer and the consequences of it than me? So, yeah, I feel that wine is Barry, that's a great segue. I think, you know, like little dumb, I call them Doug knows, I call them dumb little lagers, dumb little lager beers, you know what I mean? 4%, you know, shit like that. I don't know. We went to New Holland Pub. One of our last family trips was New Holland Pub before COVID. And the lady ordered, we ordered a flight. And that's when the lady was she's still starting to, she's not a beer drinker at all. But if we all go out and get a flight, she'll be like having some. And then she started like having them, you know, she's like, hey, yo, why don't y'all try this too? Is this good? So like there was a time there where, you know, the lady made it like a family fun thing. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, and everybody's like, oh, this one's pretty good. It was Dragon's Milk s'more stuff, and I didn't really like it.
I've had that.
Okay, and the lady was like, "This is the best shit ever," and I'm like,
"That's the best s'mores beer I've ever had in my life. The best s'mores beer I've ever had."
I didn't say this, but in my head, I was like, "Bitch, please, you don't like any beer, and you like the biggest, you know what I mean? It's a big ass beer, that s'mores beer. I don't know if you know that, Doug. It's like 14 or something, or it might have been barrel aged or something." And it was just like, because I handed it to her, and I'm like, she ain't gonna like this. And she's like, oh, I'm keeping this one over here. And I'm like, what? Like, and even the boy was like, oh, that's not too bad. And I'm like, that, I don't even like that. And they're like, what? And it was one of the worst Dragon's Milks I've ever had. Like, for me personally, I just didn't like it. It didn't work for me, but it worked.
Strange.
Well, I was questioning the whole thing too, but like, but also like I think it was more about she liked it, so I was like, what? Like I was just.
Oh, so you were dubious because she liked it?
Right. I was all in my feelings. Like we're back to that Drake song. I was all in my feelings because I'm like, you don't even like beer. Give me my shit back. Like, and she was like, no, I'm holding this one. So, but no, it was a good time though, family wise, because. I mean, he was only 16 then, and he was still like at least open to, you know, trying and tasting it, and it was cool. So I highly recommend it. I think, you know, in moderation, I think you should. And I just think, again, these are the lessons that we have to teach our kids. I don't want my kid going, with all due respect and lack of a better term, out there all raw dog and like not knowing, you know what I mean? Not knowing anything and being all like oblivious and having to learn this shit out there. So I just don't think it's beneficial at all. And I was one of these people growing up in a very religious household, Barry. And I just, and when I went to college, like y'all said, it just was a binge. It was like, oh, what's this? Let me taste this. Oh man, I didn't get to taste this. Oh, no supervision. Oh. And I got myself into some dumb ass, stupid shit. Did some dumbass shit I should have never done in college. Mm-hmm. I wasted a lot of fucking money and time because I was getting drunk instead of doing my fucking schoolwork. I was waking up hungover for fucking chemistry. I bombed out of chemistry, which ended up making me bomb out of college. So like it all and calculus too. I fucking Doug. I made
calculus. Chemistry and calculus.
Absolutely. I was trying to be an aerospace.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Don't take them at the same time. Jesus
I was trying to be an aerospace engineer, motherfucker. But Barry, I took these motherfucking
okay,
classes.
That makes it a little more sense because holy fuck, those are two really super duper hard fucking classes.
Yes, and this motherfucker took them at like 8:20 in the morning. Oh, and I'm like, right. So then I was all hungry.
Are you trying to keep this shit secret? What are you doing?
Right. I don't know what the fuck I was doing. I was trying, and then I was drunk. I was literally drunk strolling into class. How many damn times? Because I was hungover. And you know those days where you drink until like 3 a.m. and then you wake up at 6 and you're still drunk. And I was going into chemistry, trying to learn related rates, and a fucking circle is expanding at a certain rate, and you gotta like, and I'm like, my head is like fucking exploded. So and I wasted a whole bunch of money and time because I'm not an aerospace engineer now, and fucking I was paying off those student loans forever, right? Because I was drunk. Right.
Can I give you a drunk story? Well, it wasn't a drunk story. It's a multiple story. I would do the Greg thing. I'm drinking. It's 3 a.m. Yeah, I'm drunk. I'm going to bed. I'll get up in 2 hours. And guess what the fuck I did? I went to basketball practice. I was playing basketball at the school. I was drunk running aerobics in a pool at 6 a.m. like a fucking moron.
Right.
And I was, oh my God.
Right.
It was just so dumb. And I'm going to tell you, half the basketball team was fucking hammered doing that shit. It wasn't just me. It was all the freshmen. I was on a JV team because I was a fucking 155-pound, 6-foot white kid from the middle of Pennsylvania who could shoot the fuck out of threes and couldn't do much else. And I ran in a pool, fucking hungover. And my legs would be cramping. I'm like, fuck it. I just need to get through this and get to breakfast. That was just my whole. And all the guys, there were kids that puked in the pool. We were doing that. Like it was not a good scene. So yes, hey people, please give your kids some instruction on how to go to college. Just give them a little. It doesn't mean you need to get them hammered. I'm not saying that. Just let them know what it is. Just give them some information, because you don't want doing shit like I did, because that fucking sucked, or what Greg did. I'm telling you, just don't do that, because it's not fun.
Right.
And I can add one more piece of advice just for that. Yes. I was going to say this.
Yeah, hell yeah, go.
Do not let your children take 8 o'clock classes.
Right.
Yes.
I was going to say that. I was going to say, like, I'm going to at least tell my boys, don't be scheduling anything before 10.
Nothing.
No. Right.
Nothing.
Unless you have to. And if you have to, then you got to struggle through that semester or whatever. But don't be doing it often. They got plenty of these classes at night. I mean, I know it's a pain in the ass. Like, you don't want to be like
lunchtime
at noon. And I know it's a pain in the ass. You like want to be done your day at a certain time. You know what I mean? So that you can have your own time. But if you even have to take an evening class or like a late afternoon, do it. I just didn't want to do evening, late afternoon, and I was dumb. So I'm just not even gonna. It was just not bright. It was not wise at all.
And the thing is, when you're that age, like, you're not really made to be getting, unless you're an early bird, which is rare, but most of the kids at that age, they don't want to be getting up super early. They want to sleep in a bit. Sleep in a bit. Take a fucking evening class. Trust me, you'll be happier. You'll be done at 8 o'clock. That's fucking prime time for you. Don't fucking do the 8 a.m. shit unless you, like you said, Greg, unless you absolutely have to. It's a course you need for your major or whatever, and it's the only time it's offered. Otherwise, try to take later classes.
Even if you're not a drunk like Barry, Doug, or I in college. Don't do it. So anyway, real quick, Doug, you dropped the movie, so I wanted to put it up here. So it's Promising Young Woman.
That movie was fucking amazing. Just, I can't recommend that highly enough. That'll turn your whole good guy trope that we've seemingly all have played, and it'll turn it on its head, and you will feel like an utter piece of shit, but in a good way.
Barry, I'll send that to you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Cool.
I love movies that make me think and feel bad about my younger self some days.
Hey, listen, if we don't reevaluate that shit, then we're going to, I don't think we can teach our sons to be better at that. And I have 3 sons and 1 daughter, and I want my sons to be like, hey, don't be the kind of shitweed I was. Don't do that.
Amen. And Barry, here's another. This shit is crazy.
Oh yes, I have more for you on that, Greg. So when you're ready.
What do you mean you have more for me? I saw.
No,
what?
You haven't seen this. I'm going to share this with you, and you need to do this. You just need to. Love is Blind Brazil.
Oh, I started it last night, Doug. Is it good?
It's fucking just as ridiculous. But the funny thing is like, my wife is like, Jesus Christ, these women all have excellent asses.
Oh, okay. All right.
And it's a different culture. Like, my wife started there's a Love is Blind Japan, which my wife had always thought like The Circle, which is kind of this sort of Big Brother-esque sort of dumb show.
Yeah, I like that too.
But I said that show would be fascinating in Japan because of their customs, and they have a Love is Blind Japan that they just started tonight. So I got a lowdown in that. It's interesting because the guys actually have strategies to figure out if the women are compatible with them, whereas the other shows are just like, "Hey man, I'm feeling it," and that's just like, Japan's like Barry. Hey, what we do? And it's just completely different vibe. But Barry, you do watch that just for dumb shit.
Yeah, Barry, you ever heard of this mess?
Never.
Okay, so this is one. I don't know how much you and the lady watch the shows together. This is one that I recommend that you watch the show with the lady. What it is these people get engaged without seeing the other person. They jump into these things they call pods, and they just talk to each other. And then they figure out how compatible they are by just having conversations over. They call them dates, but they have conversations over and over and over again. And then at some point, they get to a point where they're like, man, you'd be nice to marry. and you don't see that person. So then you propose marriage to that person, and then
Light
that's
unseen.
that's the only way you could see them. So then after that, you see that person and you're like, oh, okay, boom, boom, boom. And then you go through this process where they whisk you off. In America, when they whisk you off to Mexico, and you can, like, that's where you get to meet that person and see that person. And then like 3 weeks later, they have this wedding set up for you and all this. And then you go through the whole process. And then on the American show, you get to the end, and then they have the wedding, and then people go up, and they have all your friends there and all that, and then it's like, okay, here's the time. Are you going to get married? And then I'm not going to say what happens then.
But there's some people that do, and some people that don't.
Wow.
Well, Doug did some spoilers, but
that's not a spoiler. Everybody knows. Some say yes, and
somebody's going to say no. Like, oh hell no, this is crazy.
Okay, right. Well, yeah, but they say right, Barry. It's crazy, but they go through the whole fucking process.
They go through the whole process.
right. And then at the end, and some people are just like, I'm just not feeling it. And some people are like, again, it's on Netflix. Check it out. And Doug, like Doug said, there's one for Brazil. I started that last night, Doug. I did. Because I was
you got mad at me and yelled at me because you were watching that thing all the way to like 6 a.m. like a numbskull. What the fuck are you doing? Don't stay up that late.
Well, what am I gonna do, Dog? What's the fuck? I mean,
sleep.
It was one night. Relax, y'all.
Okay.
But Barry, but my point to that was that it was like that addicting. It was one of those shows, at least for me, that I was like, oh no, I need to see what happens next. I'm like, oh no, are you bitches really gonna go through and do this? Like, it was like, really? Are you really doing this? Like, Love is Blind, Barry. Yeah, Love is Blind, Barry. It's a train wreck that you can't stop watching. How about that?
Look, it's on the list now. It's on the list. I got it.
It's one of the few shows that Doug and I have talked about week after week after week. We talk about shows and then we just move on. This one, it's just something, man. It's something. It's something for you to see. It's something.
Now, so speaking of shows, and I pulled this up because I just started watching it. Hold on. I just started. I'm like,
your face was priceless when he started talking about the Love is Blind. It was just like, what?
Yeah, I don't get that. I'm like, oh no. I don't get that.
It all happens within like a month, Barry. All of it.
Yeah.
They have to get married within a month. When they married.
This is the thing. It took me forever for me to get married. Like, my wife and I were together for like double digits, like years.
Chris, guess what? She knows that you were together for double digits. She's like,
I know. I love how I look back though. It's like,
we don't bring that up too often, though. We don't bring that up.
Anyway, what were you saying, Barry?
No, because it took me forever to get married. I can't imagine just to pull the trigger that fast and let's just do it. No. I
without even seeing her?
Without seeing her? Well, she's a raving lunatic, so
it happens, right, Doug? Anyway, go on.
Obviously, they never dealt with anyone crazy before, so I can just say, like, look, I got a little spider sense, so it's. But all right, before I forget, so I just started it. What's my man's name? W. Kamau Bell did it. This documentary. Yeah. We need to talk about Cosby, and it's on Showtime, and I'm on episode 1. I'm like 30 minutes in, and they're basically talking about this young Bill Cosby, and he starts off at this, like, within a year of doing comedy, he just blows up. 1 year. Like, he's a bartender, and he's the funniest bartender in the club and in the bar, and he's making all this money, and the club owner's like, you should think about comedy. And he went into it, and yeah, there it is. And he went into it, was really good at it, and Dick Gregory kind of paved the way because he was like the first Black comic to kind of get onto like mainstream. But Dick was talking about more civil rights type stuff and racial inequality. And Bill found his niche where he was just talking about life, and he was safe, and he was like in that zone where he's not going to make anybody feel bad about what's going on in America right now. So he just kind of like exploded. And and I didn't know this. I Spy originally didn't have any black stuntmen. So if you get the chance to watch it, there's a woman who was, and I'm trying to put all this together, but there was a woman who was in the first black female Bond girl. And she said, if you watch the movie, it's a white man that's my stunt double. And they showed the clip where she comes into the room and you could see that his hand is painted like brown. But they do it so fast in the beginning, like gets hit with a cigar and Bond grabs the hand and throws her on the bed and makes her do a flip in this whole thing. But then they show it to us and they slow it down, and clearly big muscular white guy in a wig. And I was like, I remember seeing this movie like, I didn't catch that. So this was, and what Bill Cosby did on I Spy was he created a whole network. He said, I'm not going to have any other white guys be my stunt double. Find me a black guy. So they found this guy that was on Gomer Pyle that looked like Cosby's build. And he was like, hey, you know what? You're no longer an extra on here. You're going to go be Bill Cosby's stunt double. And he created this whole network of black stunt people that no one knew about. And it was like, and that's where everyone's like, that's the Bill Cosby I know, always helping people out, always. So it's this big thing of a conflict of like, hey, Bill, why'd you have to mess it up, man? Come on, Bill. So yeah, check that out. That's the only one that's what I'm watching now. I'm first episode, and I'm already conflicted. I was conflicted before, but now I'm even more conflicted. It's just like, Bill, man, you was a good guy, but you was a predator.
Yeah.
Yes, Dad. It's great.
He gives the chocolate cake. It is strange to relive that experience, thinking about like the Huxtables and just how he was America's dad. He really was.
Albert.
And he was the first black America's dad. Like if you think about that, and just all the shit he did behind the scenes, and you just. What do you do with that? What do you do with that? What do you do with that?
That's what's so disheartening because he did so much. And Doug, you said it, but he played the nice guy. He was the great dad.
Mm-hmm.
And he's hiding behind this. Look,
Fat Albert, man, I learned so many lessons on that shit. Fat Albert was like a moral bearing for me coming up. It really was, actually.
What I think is funny though is like I remember being just enamored with Delirious from Eddie Murphy and all that shit. And now that shit doesn't play well because his shit on homosexual people was really bad then. And back then we didn't fucking know any better. And that's not an excuse, but it's true.
Eddie Murphy Raw, all that shit. Yeah.
But when he was talking about Richard Pryor telling fucking Bill Cosby have a Coke and a smile and shut the fuck up. Right. And that shit was funny because Bill Cosby was a square by our representations.
What we thought.
Right. And he was very much Meanwhile. But I'm going to have to see that because I haven't. And I saw that. James Evans. All right. You got
Good Times.
Good Times. Okay. I didn't realize that was Good Times. Okay. You're right. You're right. Sorry, Kelly.
It wasn't George. It wasn't George Jefferson.
Nah,
they didn't have kids though, right?
He did. He had grown kids, but he wasn't
grown.
Lionel, remember Lionel?
Oh right,
yeah,
well, Lionel. You're right.
But he wasn't. George Jefferson was not like a fatherhood type figure.
No, because you were talking. You watched that whole show. Remember?
I'm still in the middle of it.
And how racist he was to the white guy who was dating a black woman, and like
in the zebra comments with Helen and Tom, the zebra like he's George Jefferson Yeah, no. Well, George Jefferson was built out of the Archie Bunker thing. So
Yeah,
like,
he was his nemesis. He was the
right,
opposite. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. But George, the Jeffersons is one of the longest running sitcoms ever. Still to this day, it went 11 seasons. So I'm only.
I didn't realize it went that long. Wow.
I went 11 seasons. I'm only on season 6, and I still watch it. I literally watch a show every day. Literally, no bullshit. And I'm only on season 6. And I started, Doug. Remember, I started like a month ago.
I know.
But George Jefferson wasn't. He's not about. George Jefferson's more about like Black empowerment. If you really want to go there, about how a Black businessman could rise up out of nothing, and that's just his whole thing. It's not really about. I mean, he has Lionel, his son, and all that, but Lionel's old. And kind of around, and he's marrying Jenny, and he's in college, and then he married Jenny, and then they had So, but he's not like it's not like he's was Cliff Huxtable, who his whole thing was fatherhood and being a father, and he had kids coming up, and I mean we saw the Huxtables literally grow up in our living room. They were the youngest one, I forget who she is,
Rudy Huxtable.
And then Rudy ended up being a teenager by the end of all that, or like preteen or a teenager. Yep. So that was it was a different role.
And Lisa Bonet was like in that, and like that woman's pulled some of the hottest guys you've ever had in Hollywood to have. Fucking Lenny Kravitz and fucking Jason Momoa. Shout out to her, because holy fuck. I'm a straight guy, and that's like goddamn.
Doug, and even more so, she made. I don't want to say she made, but she like those two guys love each other. I don't know if you know that for a fact. They literally, they love each other like brothers. They even still do, even though Lisa Bonet is now divorced from Aquaman. Yep, she's divorced from Aquaman now, or in the process of it. But those Lenny and Aquaman are still tight. They're still like brothers, and that's just a good. That's how families, in my opinion, should work. You should, really try to drop the resentment. I mean, I gotta know if I'm using this as a word now. Unless she was Kanye'd, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand why you would be negative. You know what I mean? Now, this is probably going in another rabbit hole that we could talk another half an hour. But like, I love that story that Aquaman and Lenny get together, and they all consider themselves family. Yep. There was no resentment. It just didn't work out between Lisa and Lenny. And then you brought up Lenny Kravitz, man. Lenny Kravitz, remember his mom was Jefferson. Helen from on the Jeffersons. Absolutely. Yep. So then you have that link there. But the Jeffersons is good shit. Amazon Prime, it's included. If y'all ever want to do it, it's just really good shit. And I love Marla Gibbs, the maid. The Jeffersons is good shit. I know they say the N-word, and he calls fucking Tom a honky almost every other show.
Every show. If Tom is there, he's getting called a honky at some point.
And I just love how George has this perception that like black was better than white. I love that. Like that was something like, again, it's not true, but the point is that like there was that attitude that like someone had that, and that's something that black people need. Is like, we don't need this, we're better than white people, but we definitely need, because of the way we're treated in this country, that we're at least equal, or we're not lower than y'all. And we're, just because we are, society in a way put down, and all kinds of different, ways that we're held back. We don't have the things that white people have, because white people stole most of that shit, for the record. It doesn't mean that, we shouldn't have, pride in who we are. And that's what I get out of George Jefferson more than his racism, is pride about being black. Like, that's what he did well. I don't know why we're talking about the Jeffersons, but that's what he did well. Whereas Bill Cosby kind of, am I wrong, avoided that. Like, he made us proud in a different way. Does that make sense, Barry? Like,
it makes perfect sense.
He wasn't like bold about it, where George is like, look, motherfucker, I'm black and I'm better than you. Like, again, that's a different angle than Bill.
I just talked about this the other day, where it was like, to see the Cosbys and see Bill as a doctor, and then see Claire as an attorney, and then you see their home. You see they're raising these 3 to 4 beautiful children, and like I always identified with Theo because I was like pretty much he was like a couple of years older than me, and he was struggling in class, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's me too. But
cheers, yes.
I was like,
yes,
I was,
yes,
I was
Theo.
excited because I wasn't, we weren't upper middle class. We were like middle class. But I remember we moved into this house where our kitchen had a door that led into like our kind of a formal room. And I'm like, oh man, we're like the Huxtables, man. We're doing all right here. 'Cause they had that door that kind of swung open, and it was like in the living room where you went to the kitchen. And I felt like we're moving on up. Shoot, we're doing all right. So what Cosby did was show us that we can do better. There are people out there that are doing better. There are people out there you can strive for. It's okay. You can have a doctor and an attorney in the house, and that's not unreasonable. You can have a kid struggle in school, then becomes a successful social worker, who was Theo. You can have a Lisa Bonet who went off, got married, figured it out, brought back a husband that was in the military, but they worked it out, So it showed us that life is real. And I was a child of that time, so it was like, who didn't want Bill Cosby as a dad? I mean, like,
right. That
dude was cool,
Right. And so Kelly says, and let's not forget Fred Sanford. And Kelly, I binged this show before I started the Jeffersons, and I think after the Jeffersons, I'm moving on to I haven't figured it out, but it's gonna be another black show. It might be 227, or it might be Different Strokes. Not sure, but
Not a
Fred
Different
Sanford. We'll get to that.
Or Living Single. Living Single is actually a super underrated fucking show. I love that show.
That's where Friends came from.
Yep, exactly.
Right. Fred Sanford, though, real quick. Again, that's Amazon Prime 2, I believe. Fantastic. Check him out. Again, he's another one. He's more of a, to me, there's a more of a fatherhood angle there because Lamont's there, and that's always there. But it's also a mix with George Jefferson, which is, again, be proud about being black and not backing down about you with your blackness and making it like, I'm black. That's part of my identity. That's who I am. Don't make no mistake about it. So, like, yes, it was a little racism angle, but again, I don't, my lady tells me, it's not an excuse, but she's like, I don't know how people, the generation before us, black people, weren't racist. Like, how are you not, by the way that you were treated and by the way that shit was back then? Like, it's more of a, Donald Trump brought out the fucking bad, like the chest thumping white racism bullshit. But before that, though, it was more underlying when we were growing up, Barry, than it was like in your face, screaming at you because, screaming at kids on buses who are being, bussed out of, bus different places and all that. Like, that was like in your face. We grew up, I know, because Barry and I are days apart when we were born. We grew up when it was more underlying, where it was more like, again, so like, we're not excusing racism here at all, but, it's very understandable that the older generation of black people are more, quote, racist or have more radical thoughts because of what was being presented to them. I mean, they saw Martin Luther King shot down. They saw Malcolm X shot down. They saw Selma. They saw all that bullshit go down. So, of course, they're going to feel a certain way. There's just no way about it. Now, we got into an era where, again, it was more like underlying racism bullshit until Donald Trump came and just started stoking that shit up like nothing, no one's business. But, and that's when it really became that's when it literally flared up. And that's why, in my opinion, you can talk about the 2020 summer and COVID summer and all that shit, where racism really was like brought to a head and people were like, oh shit. And there were white people like, wow, we're racist. Like, yeah, y'all. Yeah. How about that? That's really interesting.
Didn't know?
Right. Oh, you didn't know?
Oh.
Right. But like, yeah, Barry, I don't know real quick, and then we'll wrap here. But I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit. And Doug, you jump in too. Of course, you have a different perspective. But Barry, I don't know if you want to talk about like like, and then you even said it like you even said it. Bill Cosby took a different lane as far as whether it be talking. I don't remember Bill Cosby ever talking about race. Whereas
he didn't.
Whereas Richard Pryor, Red Fox, George Jefferson's of the world really hit it, took it to a head. And so I don't know if you want to talk about that or.
So I will talk about, and I didn't know this. Again, this is like in the first episode. Bill Cosby told us his blueprint. This is before I was old enough to own an album of his. But he had a whole bit about Spanish flies and giving women Spanish flies, which would basically roofie them or make them want to have sex with you. So it was like people were like, okay, listening to this now, this was a red flag. He's basically telling us what he was doing. But and that was during that. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper because he would hang out at the Playboy Mansion with Hugh Hefner and all those guys. Like, so it was like, Hugh Hefner had the clubs all over the United States. So Hugh was actually helping with the civil rights movement and wanted to have all these Black comedians and Black musicians play at his clubs. But at the same time, the misogynist, chauvinistic ways of the time, you could be America's dad and still hang out at the Playboy Club, and it's just boys will be boys. Not a big deal. And that changed so much where you can't even have the same conversation in the 90s or 60s, 80s, 90s as we can now. Like some of the shows we're watching now doesn't really translate well in today's society. Just because it's like, whoa, I thought we were censored back then. They are really saying some really outlandish stuff. And I'm a child of the 90s. I was watching something the other day. I like documentaries, but it had Puffy on it. And Puffy said it best. Man, in the 90s, man, I became rich. Like I made a lot of money in the 90s. That was my time. And Fat Tuesdays, that's what it's called. If you get a chance, watch Fat Tuesday. It was like about where all the comedians would do their comedy in LA. And the 90s was just a great time to party. To me, that was probably the best partying experience ever. But I don't even know where I was going with this, but it was just a good time all the way around. And I'm going to shut up now because I have nothing else because I'm going to keep going on a rant.
So real quick, Kelly says a lot of our folks were out there for sure. Much of the thought that we weren't comes from the fact that we couldn't do much about it early on without getting killed or jailed. Also, Christianity and MLK had us wanting to turn the other cheek all the time. Absolutely. And that's part of why, people's jaws drop, Barry, when I say that when Martin Luther King died, he was literally at 50% approval with Black people. Like, we didn't love him to the extent that we do now until he was, he died.
Became a martyr.
And then, and became basically a martyr. But at the time, we were conflicted about MLK because half of us wanted to fight and the other half wanted us to be like, you know what I mean? Like, no, let's just, do what he says. Let's not be violent. And a lot of us wanted to burn it all down. So, so then you have that aspect of MLK and people are like, what? Like, Black people were conflicted about MLK until he died, period. Like, that's just it. There's no question about it. Do your history. You would find it out. I wasn't, I don't know when MLK died. I forget. If I was born, if we were born, Barry, we were 1 or 2 or some shit like that. Was it 73, 74, 76, 75?
I want to say that was in the 60s.
I feel like that was the 60s.
Right. So then, let's see here. What does Google say?
Age 68. 68. That was 3 years before I was born, and I'm a 50-year-old man.
So, So, Barry, we didn't even live, but if we did, again, we lived in the aftermath of him dying. which was, years. It wasn't just a year. It was years that we were dealing with his death as a community. But we were still, we were being born. So we weren't, you know what I mean? But like looking, I know by reading history and doing research on MLK that, again, we were conflicted about him. And that was wise because we wanted to burn it all down. Thank you, Kelly.
It's funny you said that because you just made me think about something. Because I know my dad. I knew my dad he was more on the, while he respected Dr. King, he also was like, he was mad. He was mad. He was just like, hey, listen, this is ridiculous. But he also taught me how to fit in, how to navigate. And it was this thing where never let them see you sweat. This is how you need to be in public. And I'm going to say we kind of lost that along the way. And I'm not saying that was a good thing or a bad thing, but like our generation was taught to assimilate. And so that we could get some type of equality. But if you were too militant, oh no, you can't come in here. So like, there's a reason why my name is Barry. I'm sure my parents wanted a nice, safe name where they knew my resume was going to get looked at, but then there was a time where people went really, really the opposite direction. Was like, my child is Black. You're going to know my child is Black. And guess what?
His name is Malcolm and middle name X.
Exactly. Like you're like, okay, all right, so I get it. And I know now at the age I'm at now where I don't dance anymore. I don't play that game the same way. Like my son used to clown me because when I would take certain business calls, I would go into Kelly, you're hilarious. One of them Jenkins boys. That's how I am, one of them Jenkins boys.
Related to Leroy, of course, right?
Right.
Of course. Right. Go on.
But my son would clown me because I would code switch. So I would get a business call and would go from, yeah, man, what's going on? I'm like, good afternoon. This is Barry. I can help you. It was just like, I would do the complete code switch. And now it's funny because while he used to clown me, if his boss calls him, hi, how are you? And now I get to laugh at him because I'm like, if they're calling me, I'm like, yo, what's good? How's it going? I don't have to do that anymore. Now I'm in my career, I'm in my business where I don't have to do that anymore. And I'm glad he understands where he needs to be a certain way with certain people. But I mean, I would love the day we could just be ourselves 24/7.
Yep. And real quick, and then we'll get to Doug. Even though a lot of folks felt like he was an agent, talking about MLK that kept us from rising up. We wanted it in order to keep our white folks pacified, right? But I don't know, man. MLK said some shit that like makes people turn cringe today. So I wasn't all that, but it's just really interesting how the perception of him is just it's just crazy. It's not crazy. It's just interesting how that was. And then again, like our boy Blackbeard Nerd says, Doug. All this is filtered through white media. So then you got to also consider that. So MLK is talking, and then he's filtered through white media, and then we hear MLK through white media. We rarely hear MLK without any taint of anybody else. So there's that aspect of it too. So yeah, Doug, did you have any thoughts on any and all this crap that the Barry and I just went off? And then we'll wrap here.
Well, as a
great conversation.
As a white guy, I'm not sure I have a whole lot to say.
Well,
but the one thing that strikes me is this sort of thing where you hear a lot of conservative Republican GOP folks always quoting Dr. King, don't judge a man by his color of his skin, but his content of character. And they never explore the rest of his quotes. It's just this thing. And they use that as a reason to be like, well, if you're talking about critical race theory, then you're inserting race and you're being divisive. And that's what they use as a reason to use this little piece And they do that with a lot of things. They do that with the Bible. They do that with a lot of different things where they're like, I'm going to take this little piece and twist it to make it fit my little kind of box that I want people to go into. Not to have any sort of open mind about, you look at people with Black people, you look at indigenous folks, you look at a lot of folks who have been just fucking systematically fucked over as much as possible. And then you're going to be like, well, you can't make me, like, I didn't own slaves. No, you didn't. But guess what? You benefit from every fucking advantage that happened in this system as a white person. I have more than I can possibly understand. I know that. And there are times where I'm just like, I don't know how to wrap my head around that. I don't. I want to be an ally and I want to help. And how do I do that when the system is set up to benefit me? So there's this weird thing where I have to be like, I need to inform my kids about how this works. And then there's a very selfish part of me that wants to be like, yeah, but that helps them. And that's really fucked up that I have to think that way. I shouldn't have to. Everybody should have the same fucking level playing field. I don't want to think that way. And I am ashamed to say that I think that way sometimes. And that's really fucked up.
And I will say, it doesn't get any more critical race theory than Martin Luther King. I mean, come on. I mean, think about it. You can't have one without the other, not even remotely. That was his whole thing. That was everything to him. Is what we call critical race theory now. So for y'all to cherry pick that and then make it like it's not critical race theory, y'all on some big ass bullshit. Like the biggest bullshit ever. It doesn't even make any damn sense. So on that note, Doug, we gotta thank Barry for coming here and awesomely enough having a very fantastic Black History Month conversation.
Yes.
And we did not plan that shit. And the best shit, I always tell my kids, some of the best shit in the world is not planned. So don't plan fucking everything, because some of the best shit in the world is not planned. And for any of y'all, I know Kelly and JG and Daniel, all y'all motherfuckers have been on this stream more than once, every single one of you. And y'all know how it is as far as, like, you know, how Doug and I do the pre-production shit. Barry and Doug and I didn't talk about any of this shit before this week. We didn't talk about anything. I told Barry I wanted to talk about masks and COVID. And what was the other thing? Right. And what was the other thing was I wanted to talk about underage drinking. Right.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't know that Russia was going to invade Ukraine, so we didn't have that on our thing until 2 days ago or yesterday. And we didn't say anything about talking about Black history, Cosby, Jefferson, but it just came out and it was just organic, and that's why the stream rules. And this is what Doug and I love about it, that we have these conversations. But Barry, I just wanted to thank you for bringing that aspect to us. And again, I have this Black History Month background. We didn't really talk about it. Kelly and Matt were on, and we talked some Black shit. Of course we did, but we didn't really get into it like we did tonight. So I am thankful for you being my friend. I am thankful for the Black Fathers Foundation, which we really didn't talk about, but that's fine. Y'all know what we do. Y'all can look it up. Barry and I are very proud of it. I thank Matt Pressberry and Kelly Pressberry for putting me and Barry together. I wouldn't know this motherfucker if it wasn't for them. We've done so many things together as far as working together. We're going to get that shit. We got to get that shit back going. Foundation Conversations. Barry's an excellent fucking host. I don't know, Barry's the host of Foundation Conversations, Doug, and I just do the background, moving people around and shit. You don't need to see me.
Hollywood Squares. This is great.
Yeah, like I do a whole bunch of that. But we have some wonderful motherfuckers on. Before I let Barry go, like, you know, James Lopez. I can go down the list of this wonderful motherfuckers that we have on, including Matt Pressberry. Barry's met them all. We've met them all. So yeah, Barry, I don't know. before we wrap here, because otherwise we'll go another fucking hour, because I could talk about all this shit. While we wrap here, it's getting late, or especially on the East Coast. Is there anything else you will want to wrap with? You want to talk about? You want to say something we missed? Barry used to have a podcast that I'm pressuring him to get back going, but we didn't even get to talk about that. Barry, what you got?
For first, thank you both very much. I enjoyed this. I had an amazing time. I got to treat this like a Friday night, so I didn't have to worry about dinner tonight. So I told everyone I will be drinking and relaxing. I didn't say drinking, just relaxing. So thank you guys. And you actually gave me a chance to kind of take off for an evening. So thank you for having me. Thank you for the conversations. It's been great. You know, it's funny. I miss this type of stuff. So I love it. I love what you guys are doing. A couple of weeks ago, I was able to actually watch some of your previous shows, and you guys start off with some crazy videos, absolutely crazy videos.
That'd be great, not me.
You know, so, yes.
Sorry.
No. It was teed up the right way, wasn't it? Teed up the right way. So thank you. It's been a pleasure, gentlemen. I appreciate you. And to all the folks on the stream, thanks for the comments. Hey, love you guys. It's been great.
Barry, and at the very least, man, hopefully we can see you at Barrel and Flow.
At the very least.
Man, that'd be great. Can't wait.
Absolutely. It's August, right? I want to go. Is it still? Where's it this time?
Same place. Same
Pittsburgh again?
It's always in Pittsburgh. It's
Always
always
in Pittsburgh. Yep.
And it's always the second weekend in August too.
It wasn't last year. Last year was in September because I couldn't go, but that normally is in August.
Yes. 4 out of the 5 times or whatever it's been, second week in August. That's what it
I
is.
actually like the weather better in September. It was nice and cool.
Yeah, me too. But
I'm with you. I'm with
But
you.
I don't know Pittsburgh in August. I don't know how hot.
Yeah, but Pittsburgh in August is better than September. I can avoid those damn Steeler fans. Oh my God, they annoy me. Fucking Christ. Anyway,
Is Matt watching this? Matt?
Matt,
he's a
Matt's
Ravens.
he's a
Ravens
rapper.
fan.
He's a rat fan.
He's a Ravens fan. That's right.
I can't do that shit either. But anyway, we're not going down that rabbit hole. Barry, thanks. We'll talk to you soon. You want to stick around for post-production? You're more than welcome. If not, I will talk to you soon on the Black Fathers Foundation tip.
Hey, guys, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you, Barry. Another great guest, Doug.
That was awesome.
We did good at the game. Yes. So yeah, JHG agreed. It was an amazing episode. I don't want to miss this point. The government killing King, known fact, no conspiracy theory. He just went too far. This is true. Daniel's going to send this replay to many people. Yeah, it was fun, man. Especially, I really enjoyed the part once we got into all the black shit. I really loved it. Fellas.
That's our guy, Matt. That's our guy, Matt. So,
yeah. Let's see. Yeah, no sport was happening when I went. Everybody was decked out in sports gear. Who's this? Phew,
that was Matt again talking about March 1st. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about March 1st, but okay.
No, remember, Jerry said March 1st is when the Barrel and Flow tickets go on.
Yes.
That's it. All right, Doug. How you been doing health-wise, buddy? Real quick.
Excellent. Like, blood pressure is really good. The pains I've been having some real pains where it was like in my ribs and some heaviness in my chest and back pains, but rib stuff's gone. Very light in the chest, but I'm getting a heart cath in early March, to just make sure my stents that I have are all healthy and good. And then I'm going to be doing fine. And I've been doing great. How about you?
I've been doing pretty good. I've had a couple bumps in the road, and it's funny
we
though,
all
Doug.
do. We all do.
But it's funny though, Doug. Like I think I get more comments of people asking me how you're doing than them asking me how I'm doing. If that makes sense. I'm like, what bitches? What about me? Whatever. What are you gonna?
Yeah, I had a fucking heart attack and had 5 stents thrown in my
right.
in my heart. So
but I had a heart attack before you, so
that's true. That's true. But
right, I was first. So see what happens when you're first.
First,
and you get like, yeah, no one remembers the first shit. Right, everybody remembers it. Oh, brothers in blockage. What are we gonna do?
Yeah,
so anyway,
we gotta make some shirts for that shit because that's gonna be funny. Anyway,
yeah, we should
review
do that.
Time, right?
I guess, yeah. Thanks for reminding me. I was just gonna. Since I went first with the heart attack, I'll go first this time.
Yeah. Everybody gives Greg some love because he's feeling
right. I'm feeling neglected. Right. Damn it, motherfuckers. No. So Double Secret, the double IPA that Charlie gave us, it's really, really good. I like it, but I didn't like it as better as the first one because that was more hoppy, more in your face. This is definitely more malty and more balanced. That's why Doug likes this one more. The balance in there. We have the Red Pale Ale, which was fun and fine, but kind of it got it got messed up with our guest. Our guest was great, so I just kind of slammed it. And then we have Fantasy Factory, which is one of the best IPAs in Wisconsin. It's definitely one of the best IPAs in Madison, Wisconsin. It's overall Wisconsin. It's one of the best. So it was an IPA night for me, or a pale ale night. What did you have, Doug?
I had two. Well, I had a quad and I had a stout. Well, an old ale, not even a stout. How about that? So I started off with the Omegang Double Chocolate 3 Philosophers, which was
jealous. I'm
really
jealous.
Super duper smooth. Just like
I'm jealous.
It's a 9% ABV beer that just drinks really smooth, like a chocolate stout that's like 6%. Like it's really, really good. Omegang makes great shit. So and then this was just slightly better because old ale. It's an old ale aged in Whistle Pig rye barrels with Bordeaux barrels too. Like just a lot going on, but just funny. Bordeaux's on the nose, but the bourbon is in the flavor, and just
yummy.
That was delicious, and both of them were delicious. But the Cloud Chews was slightly better, but that's just for me. So like 2 beers, just excellent stuff.
Yeah,
and an excellent guest.
Excellent guest. Greggy Gorin Locks. Yes, I am. Unintended though. I'm not really trying to. I want to cut it off almost every day. And it just doesn't happen. And it's just there. But look, all right. But at my age, I feel very, very lucky. So it's kind of part of it too. But yeah. Daniel Fisher, Heart of the Matter, You're So Vain. I'm sure we could come up with
well, Matt Pressberry's suggestion was fucking great. Do not buy that. Go.
Y'all didn't even give me my fucking. I had a comment on this one. You're So Vain. So that is the number 1 song when I was born, actually, Doug.
No kidding. I have no idea what the number 1 song when I was born. I do remember the first song I sang as a wee kid, which was a Rhinestone Cowboy, which was a dumb song to sing. I hate country music, so that was a weird thing for me to pick as the first song I sang as a kid.
All right. Next week we have Aaron
Yamaberg.
Thank you. You saved me. Dad blogger extraordinaire and fan of the show.
Great guy.
Fan of the stream. He's been he's commented on many of our streams. This week he's actually on vacation, so that's why he wasn't commenting tonight. But so that should be fun. We'll talk fatherhood and all that other nonsense. And Doug, I'll see you next week, buddy.
You got it, brother. Love you guys.
Vida de mi